Chapter 340. The battle between the 4 Otogekure and the remaining 2 Umbu of the Mist was nothing to watch. It was almost one-sided, and the momentum of the complete crush ended. One of the 2 Mist Ninjas' head was crushed by the giant monster controlled by Toyo. The other was affected by Toyo's genjutsu and was shot to death by Kidomaru. The only thing worth watching was the battle between Sasuke and Chojuro. Sasuke and Chojuro, after a few rounds, Chojuro began to break out under the influence of the death of his companion. The 2-blade flounder, which was originally more than 1 meter long, began to swell under the crazy infusion of chakra and expanded nearly 10 times. Chojuro held the 2 hilts with both hands and smashed the huge flounder to Sasuke. But the strange thing was that the place where Chojuro slashed was not where Sasuke was standing. He turned around and slashed behind him. Sasuke, on the other hand, stabbed Chojuro's body with Kusanagi sword in his hand. Genjutsu attack. But when did it happen? Naruto didn't see Sasuke use Sharingan. While he was wondering, a sword flashed behind him. Naruto was cut into 2 pieces. Fuck. Naruto's body was split into 2. Naruto's spiritual body floated out of his body. At the same time, he saw Sasuke's red 3-tomo Sharingan. 4 eyes looked at each other. Naruto changed his position, and Sasuke's line of sight followed. "You can see me?" Sasuke continued to stare at Naruto. Obviously, Sasuke could see Naruto in the Sharingan state, but Sasuke didn't recognize Naruto. Sharingan Genjutsu attack. Naruto originally planned to say hello, but the world in front of him was already dark. In the real world, Sasuke's Kusanagi sword in his hand slashed at Naruto's soul. The soul ignored physical attacks, but Sasuke's sword was full of chakra. The moment the sword hit his body, Naruto felt pain. The pain of the soul was more unforgettable than the physical injury. The feeling was indescribable, and it was extremely bad. But at the same time, Naruto also perceived Sasuke's position. Naruto endured the pain and got into the sword in Sasuke's hand. Chakra. Sasuke's body. The darkness disappeared. The Genjutsu attack. Fuck. It hurts. When did your unlucky child's eyesight become bad? Can't you recognize who I am? Naruto shouted. In Sasuke's soul world, Sasuke looked at the guy in front of him who was shining like a small sun and said with uncertainty, "Naruto?" Naruto replied, "It's your father." Sasuke's face flashed with joy, and his expression turned cold. "Oh. Then you can go." His voice was neither salty nor light, as if he was dismissing a stranger. Is this deliberate alienation? Naruto crossed his arms, stared at Sasuke and sneered, "I haven't seen you for a few months, and you've become a lot more arrogant." Sasuke didn't answer, and his spiritual force rushed toward Naruto, trying to push Naruto out of his body. But Naruto's soul body didn't even move. Sasuke was a little surprised and frowned. "What do you want?" Naruto continued to look at Sasuke and asked, "Hee, I want to see how much you've grown now." Then Naruto took the initiative to withdraw from Sasuke's soul world. "Wait, I'll summon my body." Sasuke hurriedly shouted, "Orochimaru is nearby." Naruto's body paused, and he turned back and smiled. "Huh? Sasuke-san, are you worried about me? It seems that the friendship between old classmates hasn't faded." Sasuke shouted in annoyance, "If you don't leave, don't think about leaving." Naruto waved his hand. "He hasn't recovered yet, right? I'm not afraid of him if he hasn't recovered. It just so happens that I have something to look for him. Wait for me, I'll summon my body." Naruto's soul body rushed out of Sasuke's body and re-entered the body that was cut in 2. To be precise, it was the upper body. At this time, the body was only cut in half at the waist, and it was not dead yet. Naruto controlled the body to open its eyes, bit his finger, and swiped the ident. 1. Tai card attached to his left arm. Summoning Jutsu. There was no need to make hand seals, he just needed to pour chakra into it. Naruto's hand pressed on the ground, and the rune lines surged. A circle of light appeared in front of Naruto, and then Naruto's body was summoned. The movement on Naruto's side caused Otogekure ninja to be vigilant, and most of them blew the flute. The magical sound entered their ears, but compared with Sasuke's 3 Tomo Sharingan, it was too weak and couldn't shake Naruto's mind at all. Jurangfang used the same trick again, and the earth wall was built high, trapping Naruto. Naruto poured chakra into his feet, and the earth wave struggled for a while before subsiding. Jurangfang's chakra was expelled by Naruto. "You are too weak." The earth wave rolled back toward Jurangfang and Otogekure ninja, turning into spikes. Otogekure ninja's reaction wasn't slow, and they jumped up one after another, but before their feet landed, more spikes sprang out from under their feet. In the absence of any leverage in mid-air, they couldn't escape except for flying. However, Devil Child Maru had a trick. The spider silk in his mouth wrapped around the tree in the distance, and he dodged it like Spider-Man. Jurangfang used chakra to protect his body, but the spikes turned into a big mouth and swallowed him directly, wrapping him into an earth ball. The outside of the earth ball was covered with runes, forming a barrier. "Open for me!" Jurangfang bombarded the earth ball, and chakra was swallowed by the earth ball. This was simply carved from the same mold as his ninjutsu. Naruto's pseudo-spiritual link said, "I learned this trick from you, but the barrier used is much more advanced than yours." The earth ball began to shrink under Naruto's control, like a big hand clenching a fist. Jurangfang raised his hand to support the 4 sides, his muscles bulged, and blue veins exposed. He broke out the strength of his whole body, but the clenching of the earth ball didn't stop. "Open!" The curse seal on Jurangfang's body suddenly changed, and his body entered the complete curse seal second state from the partial curse seal state. Boom! The earth ball was burst. Jurangfang shouted, "You are not that strong." He shouted and rushed towards Naruto. Naruto took out the blue sleeve sword and said with a smile, "It seems that you like more violent." The wind attribute chakra poured into the blue sleeve sword, and the sword hummed softly. Naruto rushed towards Jurangfang. In the distance, Devil Child Maru drew his bow and aimed at Naruto. Bang! The arrow shot towards Naruto, but Naruto disappeared. Where did he go? Devil Child Maru was startled. At this moment, Sakuya shouted, "Behind!" Devil Child Maru heard it, but it was too late. Because his head had been cut off. Naruto laughed and said, "The first one. Was it the body flicker technique just now?" "No, it was the earth release." Naruto went through the earth release and then killed him in one strike. "The second one. Toyo, Orochimaru hasn't come out yet? He is really calm. Then continue to kill." Naruto rushed towards Toyo with the wind release body blink technique. At this moment, Sasuke made his move. Lightning release body blink technique burst out, and a lightning flashed, blocking in front of Naruto. "Want to save someone from my hands?" Naruto's body blink technique burst out to the extreme, and a blood mark appeared on Naruto's left arm. Since Naruto's control of the wind attribute chakra strengthened, he hadn't hurt himself in a long time when he was using his own body. Now that the wound reappeared, it was not that Naruto had become weaker, but that he had erupted with more power. The blue sleeve sword slashed out, and Naruto ignored Sasuke and continued to rush towards Toyo. Sasuke activated his illusion, but at this time, Naruto was shrouded in the violent storm of chakra, and his spiritual power couldn't get close at all. The illusion was ineffective. Chapter 341. The green sleeve sword and the Kusanagi sword collided, and the wind attribute chakra wrapped around the green sleeve sword vibrated at a high frequency in the form of chakra scalpel. This sword once easily cut Kankuro's puppet into 2 halves, but now, it was blocked by the Kusanagi sword. On the Kusanagi sword, thunder and lightning flashed, and the crackling sound exploded in his ears. At the same time, the lightning was extremely bright, and ordinary people would be blinded with just a glance. The wind attribute and thunder attribute chakra collided in the explosion. He had to admit that although Sasuke had only been by Orochimaru's side for a few short months, she had grown very quickly. But, compared to Naruto, it was still not enough. Sasuke held on for a moment, and then she was pushed up by Naruto together with her sword. She flew out with a slash. Naruto's momentum did not decrease and continued to rush towards Toyo. With Sasuke's help to buy time, the giant controlled by Toyo had rushed in front of her. The second one. Naruto's sword passed through the giant and through Toyo. Orochimaru still did not move. Is he there or not? Naruto was a little doubtful. However, killing one meant that he had one more capable subordinate, and this deal was not a loss no matter what. The next one was... Naruto rushed to Jirango. The long sword was about to slash. At this time, a huge door rose from the ground and blocked in front of Naruto. The Rashomon that Sasuke and Sasuke jointly cast. This door blocked Naruto, but another Naruto appeared behind the two. I guessed that you would attack. Naruto found the right angle and nailed the two together. Then, the same blue flame spewed out from the sword. The two were directly carbonized. Naruto collected some ashes and said, "Death is not the end." Then he looked at the last. Jirango. After Sasuke and Sasuke died, the Rashomon that the two summoned disappeared, and Naruto walked step by step towards Jirango. Your opponent is me. Behind Naruto, Sasuke roared. Naruto did not turn around. In the perception enchantment, Naruto could clearly see Sasuke, who had entered the second state of the curse. To be honest, Naruto felt that the wings that looked like hands on the back were quite ugly. Naruto continued to walk towards Jirango. Sasuke's lightning burst out, and his speed was 10 times faster than before. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Naruto and slashed with Kusanagi. Naruto flipped his wrist and didn't even turn his body. He held his sword with his back facing Sasuke's full blow. Naruto was sent flying in the direction where Jirango was standing. On purpose? On purpose. The fourth one. Naruto's sword changed its direction and pierced Jirango's heart. Jirango was so scared that he even forgot to fight back. Naruto shook his head. Even if you die, you have to fight to the end. This time, you can't do this in the future. What's the use of having you in the future? Is there a future? Jirango's body softly fell to the ground. Naruto took a few hairs from Jirango. 4 people were killed. Orochimaru still hasn't come out? Could it be that he was too scared to come out? Or is Orochimaru not nearby at all? Anyway, Naruto didn't find any trace of Orochimaru in the perception enchantment. Naruto's pseudo-spiritual link to Sasuke. Is what you said true? I killed 4 people. Why hasn't Orochimaru come out? Do you want me to kill you too? Sasuke replied in the same way. What are you going to do? Naruto said casually, nothing. I was going to go to the Mist Village for a stroll, but I didn't expect to meet you here. Then you said that Orochimaru is here, so I killed someone to force him to come out. Naruto said it casually. Sasuke was very clear about the strength of 4 people. Naruto could kill 4 people so easily, not because they were weak, but now Naruto is even stronger. Naruto, how strong are you? Sasuke's hand couldn't help but clench. He doubted whether he could catch up with Naruto's pace. Sasuke didn't speak, and Naruto explored again with the perception enchantment. He still didn't find Orochimaru's whereabouts. Naruto suddenly shouted, Orochimaru, I have your hands, do you want to make a deal or not? Sasuke told me that you are nearby, are you afraid to come out? Naruto's shout made Sasuke jump. Naruto bought him directly. However, Naruto's shout had a significant effect. In less than a minute, Orochimaru came out with a red-haired girl with glasses. If he guessed correctly, it should be Karin. After the death of Kabuto, Orochimaru changed to train Karin? I killed 4 of your men, and you didn't come out to save them. It seems that your physical condition is not very good. Naruto looked at Orochimaru with a playful smile. Orochimaru still has his original appearance, long hair and waist, white and beautiful. However, his chest is very flat, and it can be seen that this time he should be using the body of a man. Orochimaru smiled and said, They died in your hands, which means that they are just trash, and trash has no right to live. Orochimaru didn't mean to blame him. Naruto didn't think that this was free and easy, but Orochimaru's situation may be really bad. Naruto looked at Orochimaru's bandaged hands and loosened hands on both sides of his body. He asked tentatively, "Did something happen to your hands after reincarnating again?" Orochimaru didn't hide it and said directly, "I have confirmed the information you gave me last time, and I also sent someone to the Noodle Hall." Naruto smiled and said, "You want to make a deal with me? Then why didn't you come out earlier?" A person walked out from behind Orochimaru. Kimimaro. This guy's illness is cured?" Naruto was surprised. At the same time, he was a little itchy. Orochimaru replied, "I also want to see your strength, if you are too weak. I will catch you directly." A very honest answer. Naruto replied, "What's the result after seeing it?" Orochimaru grinned and said, "The result is the same as the last time, you are qualified to make a fair deal with me." Naruto thought for a while, smiled, and then summoned a scroll. "Your hands are sealed in this scroll, I will use this scroll to exchange for Sasuke, do you think there is a problem?" Orochimaru looked at Sasuke and hesitated for a moment. Then he nodded. Naruto continued, "There's one more thing. I want to learn your curse seal. I want to learn the curse seal technique, not for you to put a curse seal on me." Orochimaru nodded again. Naruto also nodded with satisfaction. "Also, I have been studying your android project recently. Kabuto is helping me with the research of my Edo Tensei, but I have encountered a little bottleneck. I want to ask you to give us some pointers." Orochimaru was happy and stared at Naruto with bright and even fanatical eyes, and said, "You are really an interesting person, I can promise you all these, but you have to tell me one thing. The information I learned from the wood leaf said that you are dead, so why are you still alive?" Chapter 342. Your death was arranged by wood leaf? Orochimaru stared at Naruto. If it was arranged by wood leaf, then Naruto's appearance here was the meaning of wood leaf. What does wood leaf want to do? And Jiraiya just came to the Mist Village. Orochimaru pondered. Naruto shook his head. My death was arranged by myself. The reason? Of course, the world is so big, and I want to come out and see it. Orochimaru's brain crashed. All the possible deductions running in his head were overturned by Naruto's words that he wanted to see the world. How did you do it? Naruto didn't hide anything and immediately told Orochimaru the whole plan of faking his death. After that he said, "You have to keep it a secret for me. If Konoha knows that I'm still alive, then I won't be able to live a peaceful life in the future, and I might even be labeled as a traitor." Orochimaru stared at Naruto with a dumbfounded expression. Cloning himself? And then sealing part of the Nine Tails chakra in the clone? This information is simple to say, but whether it's cloning or the four-symbol seal, not everyone can learn it. You gave me too many surprises. Ha 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 ha. Interesting. It's really interesting. So, you have a very deep understanding of the cyborg experiment. What else do you not understand? Naruto quickly said, "It's not enough, it's far from enough. Now the clones are all short-lived. It's a miracle that they can live for more than a month. Also, they don't have independent self-consciousness. It's not a real success at all." Orochimaru looked at Naruto like a craftsman appreciating a piece of uncarved jade. "Then I do know more than you." Naruto unfolded the scroll in his hand, and the four-symbol seal was lifted. The soul in Orochimaru's right arm perceived Orochimaru's existence and automatically merged back. Just one? After the soul merged, the pain in his right arm disappeared directly, and the fused Byakuga cells in his body automatically began to repair his body. Orochimaru raised his right hand, and the bandage was removed, and the dried scars on his hand began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. "I'll pay half of it as a deposit first, and when you finish what you promised me, I'll return the other hand to you. How about it?" Naruto looked at Orochimaru with a smile. Orochimaru opened his palm and clenched it. The joy of regaining what he had lost was beyond words. He even had an impulse to snatch his other hand back immediately. But in the end, he resisted. "Okay. You can take Sasuke's hand. How do you want me to teach you? Naruto smiled and took out a 1-star card and handed it to Orochimaru. First, drip a drop of blood on it and bind it. Orochimaru took a look at the cards at first glance. He looked at it more carefully, and the more he looked, the more he frowned. Naruto didn't urge him. He put a lot of effort into encrypting the card, and if it wasn't connected to the server's array, no one in the world would be able to crack it. This is... Orochimaru raised his head and looked at Naruto. Seeing that Naruto didn't say anything, he cut his finger and dripped a drop of blood. The next moment, Gurney's voice sounded in Orochimaru's ear. Binding successful. Initiating identity scan. Scan failed. Host, please inject chakra into the card. Orochimaru looked at Naruto again, and although he was a little surprised, he still did as he was told. Initiating identity scan. Host's information is being generated. Basic attributes panel completed. You may view it yourself. You can view it through the control panel with your spiritual power. A small hand appeared in front of Orochimaru's eyes, and the small hand pointed at an icon on the control panel. Trigger location. With a thought, Orochimaru opened the basic attributes panel. At the same time, Naruto used his 5-star authority to access Orochimaru's information. Name, Orochimaru. Gender. Naruto glanced at Orochimaru's body again. From the chest, it was indeed a man's body. Of course, he didn't rule out the possibility that there was a chest wrap inside. The information scan was to analyze Chakra's spiritual power and read the basic information from the card's memory. So, Orochimaru didn't have any sense of gender? He could be male or female, and he could attack or defend. Amazing. Orochimaru-sama. Next was the weight, height, chakra weight, jounin level. The jounin level of chakra was too low for Orochimaru. The only possibility was that this reincarnation body limited his ability. The information below was some of his interests and hobbies, as well as his personal wishes. Orochimaru's spiritual power was very vigilant, and he couldn't scan it. All in all, the information obtained from the basic attributes panel only showed one thing, and that was that Orochimaru was currently very weak. Then, should he kill him, and then reincarnate Orochimaru into the Edo Tensei? Let him serve him like Kabuto? How tempting! There was a saying that it was better to act than to be tempted. Then, should he act? Naruto thought about it and endured it. It was understandable that Orochimaru was thirsty for talent, but it would be stupid to let a cooked duck fly away. In short, he had to get the curse seal and the cloning technology first. Orochimaru continued to familiarize himself with the system. The mission panel opened. S-grade mission. Teach the curse seal. Mission reward. 500 points. A-grade mission. Teach the cyborg technology. Mission reward. 250 points. Orochimaru glanced at Naruto. Naruto chuckled. This mission had just been issued. Do you accept the mission? A dialog box popped up on the mission panel. Orochimaru's thoughts fell on the accept button. Then, the tutorial ended. While using the system, you can submit a problem report if you encounter any problems. You can also call for manual service if necessary. Finally, I wish you a pleasant experience. Little Gunny's voice disappeared, and the floating light in Orochimaru's eyes fell on Naruto. The system prompted, "This is your most trustworthy ally." Orochimaru's mouth curled up slightly. Interesting thing, but then what? Naruto began to operate. Then, the system prompt sounded in Orochimaru's ears again. Chat permission granted. The next moment, Naruto took the initiative to add Orochimaru. On Orochimaru's operation panel, Naruto's profile appeared in the chat box. Naruto continued to operate and also added Kabuto Yakushi. In the snow country, Yakushi, who was studying corpses in the laboratory, was shocked by the system prompt in his ears. You have successfully added Orochimaru as a friend. He added Orochimaru as a friend? He didn't do anything at all, okay? Could it be that little Gunny and the other girls were pranking him? Yakushi opened the chat system. Orochimaru's profile suddenly appeared in the list. Kabuto Yakushi muttered, "It's quite similar. When did they collect the image of Orochimaru? Orochimaru?" Yakushi closed the chat system, intending to ignore this prank. But the next moment, the system prompt sounded again. "Your friend Orochimaru has initiated a video call." Yakushi frowned. It's not over yet." Yakushi was about to refuse. At this time, the mission prompt said, "Video call connected." Orochimaru and Naruto's images appeared in front of Yakushi. Yakushi couldn't help but curse. Fuck. It's really Orochimaru. Chapter 343. Orochimaru wasn't used to Kabuto calling him by his name, and he raised his eyebrows but didn't say anything. He turned around and looked around. Naruto's video call is very interesting. They can see each other's scene, and they can also pull each other into the scene where the other party is. This scene is the scene where Orochimaru is pulled into Kabuto's room. To put it simply, the influence of the space where Kabuto is located is specially edited and projected in a three-dimensional form in Orochimaru's system. It's like a genjutsu. Orochimaru looked at the medical equipment, and a familiar feeling arose spontaneously. These equipment were all used by him, then. Is this the 9th experiment? Naruto didn't intend to tell Orochimaru about the existence of the Great Snow Mountain Laboratory, and said vaguely, "No, it's another place, but the equipment is still in your laboratory." Orochimaru nodded and walked over to operate it, but his hand passed through the influence, and then he remembered that it was just a projection in front of him. Interesting. Very interesting. In order to hide his embarrassment, Orochimaru changed the topic. "Did you make this thing? Although it's not as good as Akatsuki's ring, it's already very good." Naruto replied with a smile. "Not all, there are some like-minded people. If the cooperation between us is stable enough, I will introduce them to you. By the way, if you want to operate the equipment, you can also do it. There is a clone rental system in the system. You can rent your clone, then Kabuto can use points to summon your clone, and then the system will automatically link your clone with your consciousness, and you can control the equipment through your clone." Orochimaru began to experiment with the system in surprise. Naruto turned to Kabuto and said, "I will invite Orochimaru-sama over and let him guide you in the cloning project. If there is anything you don't know, you can ask Orochimaru." Orochimaru tested the clone rental system and agreed to the rental option, and asked strangely, "What is a clone?" Naruto replied, "It's an android, I just casually gave it a code name. You know how to use the system, we can communicate through it in the future, how about it? Isn't it convenient?" Kabuto rented Orochimaru's clone, and then Orochimaru appeared in the Great Snow Mountain Laboratory in the form of a shadow clone. The moment their hands touched, Orochimaru couldn't help but exclaim, "This is so interesting." But soon, he noticed the potential threat of the card, and shook his head. "With it, you can know my movements at any time, right?" This sentence was right. Was a good question. To a certain extent, Narimaru can't Kan's location. It can be said that as long as Naruto wanted to bind this thing, Orochimaru's live broadcast would be the whole day. After all, this wasn't a lie, and it was the truth. Orochimaru looked at Naruto. Naruto laughed and said, "Don't you also know my secret? If you tell Konoha that I'm still alive, then I will also be in big trouble." TSS's S. Then I can teach him now. Narimaru shook his head. "Don't worry, you can talk about the curse and the android's matter later." Naruto snapped his fingers, and the call ended. Kabuto was still in a state of confusion. Naruto and Orochimaru made a deal? Both of them were talking and laughing? That's not important. What's important is, I called Orochimaru. Is, because he learned from Naruto. But to be honest, he suddenly felt good. After hanging up the call with Kabuto, Naruto came to Chojuro's side. Naruto's If he smelts, he doesn't know what good things will be decomposed. The last time he sold a beheading knife, he made a lot of money, bo. Naruto grabbed the. Chojuro's hand was still holding the. Chojuro's knuckles were white as if they were growing. Naruto wrapped Chojuro's hand with his palm and used the electric field to affect Chojuro's nervous system, making his skeletal muscles relax. Then Naruto found that Chojuro wasn't dead yet. Originally, Naruto planned to grab a few hairs and use the Edo Tensei, but it's different if he's alive. He can't control Chojuro's body to sneak into the Mist Village. When Orochimaru saw Naruto treating Chojuro, he couldn't help but think of Tsunade and said, "I have an interesting news, I think you will be interested." Naruto didn't turn his head and said, "Say it." Naruto is the only one in the world who can talk to Orochimaru so casually. No, Yakushi Kabuto is even more awesome than Naruto. Orochimaru didn't care about Naruto's attitude. He looked at Naruto's medical technique with appreciation and said, "I know a little about Tsunade's betrayal of the village. At the same time, I also know that the Akatsuki's people are eyeing Tsunade and want her to join them." Naruto's hand movement stopped. "When is this news?" Orochimaru replied, "Yesterday, it should be the latest news." Naruto took a deep breath, although he was a little surprised that Tsunade betrayed the village. But Naruto believed that Tsunade wouldn't join the Akatsuki. Will the Akatsuki give up? I'm afraid they'll use force. Naruto sighed. Why is the Akatsuki interested in Tsunade? In the past, Tsunade wasn't in the village. Why didn't they look for her? Orochimaru frowned, and the pain in his left arm made him smile. Because her identity is different. Now she's a traitor. Naruto understood this, but he just wanted to complain. Naruto's hand stopped healing Chojuro, but Chojuro moved instead. His fingers twitched as if he was about to wake up. Naruto slapped him again, and he fainted again. "Do you know where Tsunade is?" Orochimaru replied, "If I knew, then the Akatsuki would have already found her." This sentence. There's nothing wrong with it. Then he can't go to the Mist Village anymore. Naruto first sealed the double-blade flounder in the scroll. This thing must be taken away. As for Chojuro, Naruto decided to keep him in the Snow Mountain first. Naruto's psychic link shouted in the spiritual network. "Is anyone free now? Come and take 2 people back." Gurney replied, "I'm applying a mask." Naruto made a prompt decision. "You're the one." Guenai did not give in. "I'm not wearing any clothes yet. I'm taking a bath." She didn't. She just took off her clothes. She only took them off after you told her to. Naruto couldn't believe that a person could be as lazy as Guni. "Hurry up and put it on. I'll summon you in a minute. I have a lot of people here. If you don't want to come over naked, hurry up." Little Gunny replied, "No, she just undid a button." Gurney shouted, "Little Gurney." Needless to say, Gunny and Little Gunny were already engaged in a fierce battle in the snowy mountain. At this moment, Big Gunny said, "Summon me." Naruto said righteously, "You can't always go along with her. You'll spoil her." Big Guinness replied, "But they are tearing each other's clothes apart." Naruto was at his wit's end. What was this? As the saying goes, 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 the saying goes, as the saying. Naruto summoned Big Gunny. Under Naruto's instruction, Big Gunny wore a mask and covered his face. "Sasuke, you should also leave with her." Naruto planned to send Sasuke to the snow country. However, Sasuke said coolly, "I'm not going. I want to continue to follow Orochimaru." What the fuck? Naruto cursed in his heart. Chapter 344. Sasuke doesn't agree? Naruto stared at Sasuke, and Sasuke looked at Naruto indifferently. The two of them stared at each other like this. Stare. Naruto suddenly said, Sakura Haruno is also in the snow country. Sasuke's face became gloomy, and he replied coolly, I guessed it. Naruto froze for a moment. Guessed it? How did you guess it? Sasuke shifted his gaze elsewhere and replied coldly, I also know the news of your death, and I also know that Sakura Haruno was killed by you who turned into 9 tails in that accident. Since you didn't die, she shouldn't die either. Well, Naruto admitted that little Sasuke's little brain worked quite fast. You didn't come because Sakura Haruno is with me? Sasuke looked up at Naruto coolly. Naruto curled his lips and turned to Orochimaru and said, The previous deal with Sasuke is invalid. If you want to occupy this kid's body, continue to work hard. Orochimaru looked at the two of them in amusement and said seriously, Are you serious? Naruto grinned and said, Well, I'm serious. When the time comes, you just have to leave me a strand of his hair. I will reincarnate this kid in Edo Tensei, and then… How should he punish him? Serving a foot basin? That's Hinata's job. Well, Hinata didn't serve it to him, so he just imagined it. But it's definitely not going to run away from serving tea. Naruto stared at Sasuke with a smirk. Sasuke said with a cold and arrogant face, I won't let you have this opportunity. Naruto rolled his eyes, too lazy to pay attention to this idiot, and said to Orochimaru, Since this condition is invalid, can I change another condition? Orochimaru nodded and said, Yes. Then what should he let Orochimaru do? Living corpse reincarnation? Naruto felt that it was quite difficult. If he really died one day, he felt that Edo Tensei was easier. Then, it seems that there's nothing to trade? Naruto's eyes looked at Karen who was beside Orochimaru. A thought flashed through his mind. Should he switch with this girl? According to her bloodline, this girl belongs to the Uzumaki clan, the same clan as Naruto. It's natural to take care of her clan. However, Naruto found that this girl was staring at him with hostility. Why? Is it because of Sasuke? If I remember correctly, Karen has always liked Sasuke. Well, this probably can't be exchanged. Even if Orochimaru agrees, it's not interesting to exchange for someone who hates me. Naruto doesn't have masochistic tendencies. At least he thinks so. After thinking about it, Naruto found that he couldn't think of a plan that moved him. How about this? The condition is to establish a long-term cooperation. After the first stage of cooperation is completed, I will also share some of my research. How about we discuss it together? To be honest, I'm also studying Jutsu of Immortality. My initial idea is to restore the human body through cloning, then use Edo Tensei to summon the soul, and then use Spirit Transformation Jutsu to transplant the soul into a new body to achieve the purpose of resurrection. Orochimaru smiled with an ugly face. It was ugly, mainly because of the pain from his left hand. Very good idea. I'm already looking forward to cooperation between us. Naruto replied, I'm also looking forward to it. By the way, as an ally, help me keep an eye out for news about Tsunade. Orochimaru nodded. Of course, compared to Tsunade being with the Akatsuki, I'm more willing to have Tsunade be with you, but that girl probably doesn't want to see you abuse Edo Tensei. After all, she resurrected the broken body. Orochimaru shrugged and made a helpless expression as he said this. Naruto smiled and said, It's okay. I'm not the kind of person who kills innocent people. The ones I use, are all similar to criminals. Besides, if killing is really heinous, then each of us is guilty of heinous crimes, right? Orochimaru laughed and agreed. Interesting sentence. You're much cuter than those guys who have blood on their hands but speak of benevolence, righteousness, and morality. Degeno was still standing beside Naruto, holding Chojuro in his hand as if he was holding a chick. Since Sasuke wanted to continue following Orochimaru, Naruto couldn't force him, so he said to Degeno, "Okay, since the other person doesn't want to leave, you can take one of them back." Degeno nodded and triggered the reverse summoning technique on the card. A circle of light rose and enveloped Degeno in it. At this time, a small white snake with the thickness of a finger quietly bit Degeno's trousers. Naruto noticed this snake through the perception barrier. At the same time, Degeno also noticed it. In the spiritual network, Degeno asked Naruto for instructions. How should we deal with it? Naruto said straightforwardly, "Kill it." The teleportation circle was activated, and a few fine iron sand overflowed from Degeno's prosthetic arm, enveloping the white snake, then connected its head and tail to form a steel wire, instantly crushing the white snake. Bang! White mist rose, and Degeno was teleported back to the snowy mountain. Naruto didn't even look at the dead snake on the ground. He took out a 1-star card and handed it to Sasuke. "Here, drip a drop of blood on it." Sasuke hesitated whether to take it or not. Naruto threatened, "If you don't take it, I'll beat you until you do. I'm stronger than you now. If you don't want to lose face and get beaten up." Naruto gave Sasuke a knowing look. The two of them were in a stalemate for a while. In the end, Sasuke took it. "Drip a drop of blood to bind it." Naruto stared at Sasuke until Sasuke bound the card. Then, he waved at Orochimaru and said, "Then this is the end of the discussion. You have more people, so the battlefield will be cleaned up by you." Naruto left with the wind body blink technique. It was like a gust of wind that blew into the forest and disturbed a few leaves, but it soon disappeared without a trace. Orochimaru stared at the dead snake on the ground. There was no disappointment on his face. Instead, he smiled even more happily. Interesting, Orochimaru continued to operate the system and saw a 3D theater option in the entertainment area. He clicked on it. Then, a row of lists appeared. Wind and Cloud Princess 1, Wind and Cloud Princess 2, The Last Swordswoman. The covers of the 3 movies were very beautiful and moving. Wind and Cloud Princess 1 showed a shy smile of Snow Breeze. It was very cute, and people couldn't help but feel an urge to protect her. Wind and Cloud Princess 2 showed a bloodied Wind and Cloud Princess standing in a sea of corpses and looking into the distance. Not only was the scene lifelike, as if it was right in front of his eyes, he could even smell a trace of blood and rust. This was the effect of sensory information, just like illusions. The picture of The Last Swordswoman was even more shocking. On one side of the picture was a stunningly beautiful Kanon Chiba holding a long sword, and on the other side was a ninja. It was a perfect combination of austere and cool. Orochimaru clicked on The Last Swordswoman. The scene in front of him changed, and a virtual reality 3D movie was shown. However, the movie only played for 5 minutes. Just as Orochimaru was enjoying it, it suddenly stopped. A window popped up. "This movie is a paid movie. If you want to watch the full version, please purchase it with points." Orochimaru clicked on the purchase button. A notification popped up. "You don't have enough points. Purchase failed." Then, a guide popped up. 100 tricks to earn points. Mom won't have to worry about me not having enough points anymore. Orochimaru hesitated for a moment and clicked on it. Chapter 345. After leaving Orochimaru's place, Naruto went to the underground trading house alone and issued 2 missions as the vice president. One was about Akatsuki. The other was about Tsunade. Fortunately, they were all successfully released. Because Akatsuki was also a registered mercenary in the underground trading house, the mission money was doubled. But this was nothing to Naruto. Not to mention the money earned by Hinata, the income of Snow Country was enough for him to squander. After finishing this matter, Naruto returned to the snowy mountain. The Edo Tensei of Otoge-cure was resurrected. Like the previous Edo Tensei, the 4 of them chose to rely on Naruto under coercion. "Believe me, you will be glad to have the opportunity to be summoned by me today. And I promise that you will be resurrected one day." The 4 of them looked at each other, then knelt on one knee to Naruto. This was the first time someone gave him such a big salute. It felt really good. It felt like turning into a white cloud, floating with the wind to the sun under the vast blue sky. It was also intoxicating. I chose you in addition to your fighting ability. Another reason is that you have a certain foundation in Fuinjutsu. As you can see, the system you use is compiled by me with Talisman Array. When you have time, exchange the teaching materials and learn them well. Autogecure's operating system found Talisman Array Compilation Guide, 3-dimensional Talisman Array Compilation, Electronic Computer and Talisman Array Transcription, 4-dimensional Talisman Array Encryption, in the Learning panel. Each of them is divided into 4 volumes, and the upper volume has the same price of 100 points. The middle volume varies. Most of them are 500 points and require level 2 star authority. The lower volume is more expensive, with 800 points and requires level 3 star authority. Is this all the knowledge used in the entire spiritual network? No. Of course not. Naruto didn't intend to create a national programmer to compete with him for business. If you want to learn the real core knowledge, the last volume, Super, requires Naruto to unlock the authority alone to learn it. In other words, if you want to learn, you have to become yourself first. The 4-man team of Autogecure received 200 points for completing the novice mission. At this time, they listened to Naruto's instructions and exchanged for 1. Autogecure's operation of the system. Naruto's super authority dog naturally knows. Naruto was very satisfied with the attitude of these guys. Then, without saying anything else, he summoned ink, which he had obtained from the underground trading house previously. These 4 will form a team with you in the future. Together, you will establish a mercenary group in the underground market. At the same time, the 5 of them received a quest notification from the system. Mission notification. Received exclusive mission. Establish registered mercenaries and purchase children. The mission didn't ask if they accepted it. It appeared on everyone's operation panel directly. Mission description. There is no need to choose the so-called aptitude. Although some people may not necessarily become excellent ninjas, they may have great achievements in other aspects. Mission progress. Beginner reward. 0/50 people, 50 points. Intermediate reward. 01000 people, 200 points. Advanced reward. 01000 people, 500 points. There is no upper limit to the reward. Every 10,000 people recruited counts as a high-level reward. To be honest, all 5 of them were shocked when they saw the number of people to be purchased. 10,000 people? How much is that? And there is no upper limit. Ink couldn't help but ask, do you really want to recruit so many people? How much will it cost? Ink felt that he couldn't calculate it with his fingers. If there is so much money, who would still be a mercenary? Naruto smiled and said, you don't have to worry about the money. All the expenses are public funds. We are not short of money. At the same time, a message popped up on all the rich businessmen's pages at the same time. The greatest pain in life is that people die without spending money. Then let me ask you, do you want to live forever? Do you have a loved one who wants to be resurrected? Click on it and I will fulfill your wish. This activity can be paid after service. For a while, all the rich businessmen with identity cards couldn't sit still. At first, most of them didn't believe it, but they still clicked on the message. Then there were all kinds of hesitation. This is fake. How can the dead be resurrected? Isn't that something only a god can do? But what if it's true? He thought about his property and his young and beautiful wives. When he dies, these will be passed down to their sons. This is a matter of course in traditional philosophy. But what if I can live forever? Then, he chewed on the sentence, the greatest pain in life is that people die without spending money. Some people had clicked on the message more than 10 times. They read it over and over again, word by word. Then, they looked at the person who sent the message, the highest level management. Then, they looked at the sentence that said they can pay after service. This day and night, for everyone who received the message, was a kind of torture. If they believed this kind of news, they might be treated as fools. But if they lost a chance to live forever because of this, then they would be *King idiot. But, what if this is a trap? Time passed by minute. Their blood boiled, and they became calm. Then, some of them had some ideas. Many very cautious people looked at the message again. After confirming that there was no mention of going personally, they had the idea of sending people. Then, they submitted their ideas to the complaint. The rich even clicked on the manual service. After verifying that they could send people, some rich businessmen finally made up their minds. This was the style of the steady party. There were also people who dared to gamble and fight. Those people thought that since the other party didn't do anything to them when they were in the snow country, then the other party didn't intend to kill or capture them. How could they miss this miracle of resurrecting the dead? This was Naruto's mobilization plan for the rich businessmen. For the snow country, it was much simpler. Naruto just told Kono that he needed money and plans for the construction of the snow country. Fonghua Little Snow immediately agreed. She was a queen. Naruto was lecturing several people on the second floor of the Great Snow Mountain. By the way, you have another task. You go to the underground exchange to take the task of collecting information about the Akatsuki, and the task of collecting information about Tsunade, and then pay attention to it while collecting people. What is the Akatsuki? Others may not know, but the group of 4 in the original Otogekure was very clear. Looking at Naruto again, they suddenly realized that they were going to do something big. This kind of big move is not inferior to Orochimaru, or even bigger than Orochimaru. In addition to the excitement, they were also a little scared. Naruto comforted them, "Don't be afraid of death, you are already dead, and I can resurrect you even if you die again. Of course, pay attention to those who conceal. I don't need to teach you this, right?" Naruto looked at the 4 in the original Otogekure. The 4 nodded one after another. Naruto smiled and said, "If you really encounter a difficult opponent and get sealed, just send me a message before being sealed, and I can save you." After the task of Edo Tensei was issued, Naruto took a deep breath. He was going to the Rain Country. That was the headquarters of the Akatsuki. If there was any news, it would be the main point. As for the previous preparation, it was just a safety measure. 9th Lamas, "Sensei, we are going to see God, are you afraid?" Chapter 346. God? What God? Nine Tails was a little disapproving. Naruto said with a fierce face, "A guy with 6 paths of reincarnation, do you think he's a god?" Nine Tails was stunned, then said disdainfully, "Although I don't know how you know about Rinnegan, I've only seen that old man have that kind of thing. Now, it's impossible." Nine Tails didn't believe it. Naruto pursed his lips and said with a smile, "Then I'll let you see it when the time comes. To be honest, I'm suddenly a little nervous now." Nine Tails said straightforwardly, "Where are we going next?" Naruto's spirit body took a deep breath, trying to ease his nervousness, but the spirit body was not like the body. There were no bones, no flesh, and no internal organs. With this breath, the golden Naruto blew up like a balloon, looking a little funny. But before he could exhale, his stomach deflated back. After all, Naruto didn't inhale air, but the wandering soul power in the spirit world, which was directly absorbed. The soul power fused into the spirit body, warm and comfortable, and also had a relaxing effect. He replied, "I'm going to a place called Rain Country. As for you, just continue to stay by the girl's side, take them to do missions, and then continue to eat delicious food to nourish your body. But you can't just eat, you have to let them cultivate. If the pig incident happens again, you won't have the chance to come out and breathe in the future." "I'll do what I say." Nine Tails wanted to retort Naruto, "Why are you pretending in front of me?" But after thinking about it, he decided not to. A good fox doesn't lower himself to people's level. This time, he'll let him pretend, and next time, well, next time, I'll deal with him. Nine Tails's inner thoughts were very exciting. Naruto saw that Nine Tails didn't answer, so he asked, "What's wrong? Do you have a problem?" Nine Tails made a rather kind expression, his hair was soft, his teeth were retracted, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. Why would I have a problem? The last time was a complete accident. Naruto called the mutant avatar Shiba Inu. The Shiba Inuchi's ability to act cute was much better than Nine Tails. It squinted its eyes and stretched its tongue out like a real dog. It licked its face and used its tail wagging skill. Vroom vroom vroom. Faster and faster, the Shiba Inu took off. Naruto looked at this scene speechlessly. To be honest, it was quite comical, especially when you saw the snow-white face under the golden hair flattering you. But he was also a bit of an idiot. This is definitely not my doppelganger. It must have mutated. Naruto comforted himself. Alright, you can become the Earth Whale. The Shiba Inu took the order and landed on the ground from mid-air. The moment its body touched the ground, the surrounding soil gathered towards the Shiba Inu. A big dog stretched and turned into a fat pippy whale. Her little butt was shaking and her tail was wagging. She was a little cute. Naruto's face was dark. This is definitely not my doppelganger. A portal opened in Naruto's belly, and the waves rolled, and a neat staircase extended to Naruto's feet. Naruto's soul left his body and drilled into the body of the Earth Whale. The Earth Whale dived into the ground and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Half a month later, Naruto came to the Rain Country. Naruto didn't rush in. Looking in from the outside, the Rain Country was very strange because it was sunny all around. Only the clouds covering the Rain Country were raining. Naruto knew that this was Tendo Pain's perception ninjutsu, Rain Tiger Freedom Jutsu. It was to integrate chakra into the heavy rain and perceive every movement of a country with the rain. This was very similar to the perception barrier, but the difference was that the general perception barrier was maintained by several or even dozens of people, but Rain Tiger Freedom Jutsu was completed by Tendo Pain alone. What's there to be afraid of? I can also make a perception barrier of dozens of kilometers. Naruto muttered to cheer himself up. Then he repeated the same trick and watched from a distance, waiting for the ninjas of the Rain Country to pass by. This time, Naruto was much luckier than when he was in the Mist Village. On the third day after Naruto sneaked in, a group of people rushed back from the outside. For people wore convenient ninja clothes outside and changed into raincoats before returning to the Rain Country. Of course, some people held umbrellas. This bad weather, when will it end? The person next to him scolded. Pain-sama is also thinking about the safety of the people of the village. When the rebels are eliminated, naturally, it won't rain all day. That person was obviously a person who felt good about himself and was not disciplined. He was about to open his mouth to resist a few more words, but his expression suddenly stiffened and his body trembled. Perhaps because his popularity was relatively poor, the people next to him didn't even care about him. At this time, Naruto had successfully lived in this body. As for the Earth Whale, if he went in like this, he would definitely be discovered by the other party. Naruto arranged with the Earth Whale through spiritual link, "You wait for my news outside first. Remember, don't step into the Rain Country. If the rain in the Rain Country has a tendency to expand, you will drill into the ground, understand?" The Earth Whale quickly responded, "Understood. It's clear." Naruto was the only one holding an umbrella in the group. Everyone walked into the rain together. When the rain hit the umbrella, Naruto could clearly perceive chakra's fluctuations in it. Rain Tiger Freedom Jutsu. It's not a big deal. When I return to the Snow Country, I will use the Snow Freedom Jutsu. Hee, not to mention a day or two, it won't be a problem to maintain it for a year and a half. Well, I'm not worse than him. I just lack a pair of Rinnegan. Walking into the Rain Country, Naruto learned the name of this person from the words of his teammates. He was called Blowfish. What was very vivid was that this guy's hairstyle was also like a hedgehog's hair. Coupled with his bad temper, he was like a human blowfish. Naruto followed the team all the way to the place where the task was handed in. The rain outside continued, and no one came to trouble him. This made Naruto somewhat relieved. It seemed that they didn't discover his existence. "Blowfish, let's go?" Let's go to the bar at the end of the alley for a drink? Bar. Because he was still underage, Naruto had never touched alcohol. He was about to refuse, but a plan came to his mind. Going to the bar was good. He was worried that he didn't know other information about this body. After a while, he would go to the bar, drink a lot, and then pretend to be drunk. In this way, someone should send him home. Even if they didn't send him home, he could pretend to be drunk and forget where his home was. I'm really a genius. This plan is really King perfect. Okay, it's my treat. Naruto laughed heartily. The person who called Naruto was stunned. Then, he patted Naruto's shoulder and said, "Good boy, you're finally acting. I've been waiting for your wine for 16 or 17 years. It's not easy. It's really not easy." Then, he continued to pat Naruto a few more times. Naruto was slightly surprised. The person I kidnapped this time was originally a stingy person? TSK. Fortunately, this guy's friend was a bit of a retard. Otherwise, I would have been exposed. Well, I'll have to get some information from him later when we drink. I have to ask this guy if there's anything else I need to pay attention to. Naruto was a little nervous and excited. Unconsciously, he seemed to like pretending to be another person. This feeling was very fun. When he acted like someone, he felt a sense of accomplishment. Right, I have to find an opportunity to bind an identity card and then contact Gurney. Gurney is the Oscar winner. Chapter 347. There were 4 people in the team, 1 captain and 3 members. The standard was 3 men and 1 woman. Naruto and one of them wanted to go to the bar, and the other 2 said that they would go back to their own homes, so they dispersed. After arriving at the bar, Naruto let the other party order first, and then shouted, "Same." He thought that there would be fewer mistakes this way, but he didn't expect the other party to be surprised. "You also want to drink green bamboo chue? Did I hear wrong? This wine is very strong. You've never touched it before." Did he act wrong again? Naruto felt suffocated in his heart. At the same time, he complained that he found such an unsociable guy this time. Naruto pretended to be indifferent and said, "Today, I'm in a bad mood. I want to change my taste." He didn't expect this sentence to be wrong again. The other party was surprised. "You don't care about your baby sister?" Damn. This guy with a terrible appearance actually has a sister. Then is his sister a flower or a phoenix? Phew. Naruto took a deep breath, turned his head and frowned as if he was tired of the rain outside the house, and said impatiently, "Just a few drinks, it's not a problem." The friend patted him on the shoulder again. To be honest, Naruto didn't like others to touch him. But he still resisted and pulled the other party's hand away. After the drinks and dishes were served, 3 glasses of wine were drunk. Naruto planned to interrogate this guy about his information and talk about the past, but who knew that his eyelids would roll and his body would tilt and directly fall to the ground drunk. Damn it! Is the wine too strong, or is this guy too cowardly? When Naruto was with Tsunade in the past, Tsunade always ate meat and drank wine. With his current appearance, if Tsunade saw him die, she would laugh like crazy. However, Naruto got what he wanted. After the body controlled by Naruto got drunk, the guy next to him laughed for 5 or 6 minutes, paid for the wine, and then carried him away. The destination was what Naruto wanted to know, the home of this body. When he reached home, he heard the person carrying him complain, "Little pufferfish, this brother of yours, I really have to give it to him." In order to not have to pay for the wine, he drank 3 cups of green bamboo jade in a row. "Tell me, how did I get to know such a scoundrel like your brother? Little blowfish?" Without an identity card or a perception barrier, Naruto could only eavesdrop on their conversation. Of course, Naruto could also let the spirit escape from this body, but God knows if that would attract the attention of Pain of Heaven, so Naruto planned to stay in his body. Naruto used the ears of this body to eavesdrop on their conversation. In his mind, he imagined the image of this guy's sister. Small. The sea. How dare you? In that case, His sister should be a monster with a face as terrible as his own, with a head that was as straight as his own, right? And then, should I put on some smoky makeup and wear a nose ring? Hee. The scene in his mind was too beautiful. So beautiful that it was suffocating. Then, spray some cheap perfume. And wear a pair of broken heels? Then, put on a few iron chains. Naruto felt that he should stop imagining things. If he continued imagining things, he might be struck to death by his own lightning. Then, he heard the sound of footsteps, the sound of the door opening, and the touch on his body. Naruto guessed that he should have been sent to the bed. Then, he heard the sound of this body's dog friend saying goodbye. Then, his shoes were taken off. His clothes were peeled off layer by layer. What was the girl doing? If it was a normal undressing, then so be it. This guy's sister's hand was actually touching his body. Heavens! This guy wouldn't be having an affair with his sister, right? Then, what was she going to do to him when he was drunk? Naruto's spirit frantically swallowed non-existent saliva. His face was sluggish, and there was a little fear in his eyes. In addition to the fear, there was expectation? King expectation. I am definitely not a pervert. I want to cut off the sensory connection with this body. I absolutely cannot fall from grace like this. Naruto swore in his heart. In the end, however, he did not do anything. That was not right. He did do one thing, and that was to quietly wait. However, to his disappointment, after his shoes, socks, trousers and clothes were removed, nothing happened. Half an hour passed by. All was silent. Naruto felt displeased. He felt as though he was about to take off his pants for you to show me this. Next, Naruto began using chakra to break down the alcohol in his body. 1 hour later, all the alcohol in his body had been released and his body finally woke up. Naruto opened his eyes and saw a somewhat simple but very clean bedroom. Naturally, the most eye-catching thing was the little girl lying beside his bed. This little girl did not have an afro like him. Instead, she had a head of black hair tied behind her back with a beautiful red ribbon. When Naruto got up, the little girl sensed him and raised her head in a daze. This time, Naruto was able to see the little girl's face. She was very delicate and pretty, with long eyelashes, a small nose and red lips. She did not have any makeup on her face, but she was very fair and clean. There were also small beads of sweat on the tip of her nose. However, she kept her eyes closed. When she raised her head, she carefully touched Naruto. This was a blind girl. In an instant, Naruto understood why the little girl had to touch him when taking off his clothes. It was because she could not see. The little girl touched Naruto's body and happily said, "Brother, you are awake. I knew you were not drunk. You must have pretended to be drunk so that you could not pay for the drinks, right?" Ah! What was so surprising about pretending to be drunk so that he could not pay for the drinks? What kind of twisted education did this little girl receive? Faced with such a little girl, Naruto did not know how to respond for a moment. That little pufferfish brother was indeed pretending to be drunk. "All right, you can go back to your room and rest now." The little girl was stunned. "Why did you call me little pufferfish? Brother, don't you always call me pufferfish?" "But I like whatever you call me." Pufferfish? Naruto thought of the pig. After Tsunade disappeared, Shizune also disappeared, and took the pig with her. Tusuke, this name, gave a pig's name. Naruto took a deep breath. "That pufferfish, go back to your room and sleep." "Brother, I have other things to do." "Wait." Since they were brother and sister, the information obtained from the sister's mouth must be the most reliable. When the little girl got up, Naruto suddenly changed his words. "Wait. That pufferfish, tell me about the past. Brother wants to talk to you today." This time the plan went smoothly. Pufferfish knew but did not speak. She eloquently talked about all the shameful things her great brother had done since he was born. No, since Pufferfish could remember. Stealing manhole covers, buying scrap iron, cutting wires, and buying copper wire. In short, fortunately, there were no trains in this country. Otherwise, the train tracks would not be let go. With such an unscrupulous brother and a little black flower-like sister, they lived all the way until now. To be honest, this story did not sound easy, and it was a little sad. At the same time, it also made Naruto encounter another trouble. That is, the moment he took control of this body, although the little black flower's brother did not die, he would definitely lose his memory after he left. At that time, would he still be able to take care of a blind sister? Brother, your greatest act was to steal Brother Seahorse's favorite gold pen and then sell it for 100 silver taels, and Brother Seahorse does not know until now. The little girl was full of pride and smiled foolishly. Naruto's face was full of MMP. Who is Brother Seahorse? He is the good person who just carried him back. Bastard! Naruto originally felt that he was shameless enough, but he found that there was always a mountain higher than a mountain. Chapter 348. Through his conversation with the little pufferfish, Naruto was able to summarize the characteristics of this body. In short, he was a ruffian who would do anything to raise his little sister. He was a good brother who was filled with humanity even though he was a bastard. These were the characteristics of his little sister's identity. In the eyes of others, he was just a pitiful bastard. While chatting with the pufferfish, Naruto had already bound himself with a 1-star identity card. In the spiritual network, Naruto looked at Gurney, who had a crafty look in his eyes, and said, "What? You look like you're confident in this role?" Gurney's eyes were still fixed on the spiritual network. He sighed and said, "It's too easy. Leave it to me." The next day, a pufferfish with a 180-degree change from his hairstyle to his clothes stood in front of the mirror in his own home. The pufferfish head was gone. Following Gurney's instructions, Naruto took a thorough bath and got a haircut. After washing up, the pufferfish was no longer covered in mud. He looked like a new person. The sloppy appearance of the past was gone. He even had a mature beauty that had weathered the ravages of time. In addition to his good physique as a ninja, he had a straight and strong body. To be honest, he was not that ugly. He was very clean, very neat, very good. But he did not look like the pufferfish of the past. After following Gurney's instructions and equipping himself, Naruto felt very unconfident. Will this work? Why do I feel like my original persona has collapsed? Won't I be exposed immediately? Gurney was very calm. What do you know? This is not a collapse of my persona, it's a sublimation of my persona. In the past, this brother and sister have suffered all kinds of hardships, all kinds of tiredness and pressure for too long. It's time for them to wake up and explode. Naruto did not understand what Gurney was talking about. He asked suspiciously, "Wake up to what?" Gurney said matter-of-factly, "His looks. In the past, this brother has received all kinds of strange looks and unfair treatment because he doesn't know how to take care of himself. He's too ugly." Naruto silently squatted down and picked up the cut hair. He said worriedly, "I don't know if this hair can be glued back." Guenai shouted, "Put down that hair." Thus, regardless of whether Naruto was willing or not, a fake pufferfish whose appearance had changed drastically from head to toe began his life as a fake pufferfish. Walking out of the house, the rain continued to fall. Naruto changed into a raincoat to cover himself, which did not match his original style. The country of Rain was a country with a rather peculiar architectural style. There were many tall buildings that seemed to be made up of pipes. It was like a row of pipe organs. The color scheme was rather monotonous and dark, making it seem a little heavy. At the same time, because of the erosion of the rain, there was a fishy smell in the air. Naruto walked on the street, collecting useful information from the conversations of the passers-by. This search lasted for a week. In a week, Naruto learned that people in this country generally knew of Pain's existence and believed that Pain was a god that descended from the sky. But when it came to what a god looked like, there were many different opinions. At first, Naruto thought that it was 6 paths Pain's 6 people. But later, he found out that only a few of them were satisfied. The rest were just nonsense. In short, most people had never seen a god. This was all useless information. The relatively useful thing was that these people's descriptions of angels were very uniform. Not to mention the words holy and solemn, the common thing was that they all had a pair of snow-white wings made of white paper, which was Conan. Another thing was that there was an area in the Eastern District that was not open to the public. Civilians were not allowed to enter. It was a forbidden area. Naruto suspected that the Akatsuki stronghold was likely to be there. Pufferfish. You're here to take the mission too. In the entire country of Rain, the only person who could call Pufferfish so intimately was this guy's best friend, the guy who had his gold watch stolen by Pufferfish. Naruto looked at the person who called him and nodded in greeting. The person ran over. Although you've changed your appearance for a while, I still can't recognize you. Hippocampus teased Naruto's appearance. Naruto was too lazy to complain. As long as his identity was not exposed, everything was fine. Gurney's idea could be considered a stroke of luck. At the very least, he did not have to pursue his original appearance after changing his appearance. The difference from the past could be understood as liking a certain girl. Say, are you still not going to tell me which girl you've taken a fancy to? Don't worry, I'll keep my mouth shut. Besides, who knows, I might be able to give you some ideas. As he spoke, Hippocampus poked Naruto with his hand. Naruto changed the topic. I saw that there's a mission in the Eastern District to help repair the underground pipes. What about you? What kind of mission do you intend to take? The country of Rain was in a state of seclusion. Generally speaking, there were very few missions out of the country. Most of them were village missions. Thus, when the ninjas were free, they would take on some private missions that did not require a team. At the mention of missions, Hippocampus looked around mysteriously. After confirming that no one was eavesdropping on them, he whispered, "Don't go to the Eastern District. It's said that there's nothing there. Listen to me and follow me to the Western District." According to reliable sources, the Western District's red light district needs to be rewired. It just so happens that today's construction period ends there. How about it? Do you want to go? After the mission, we can have some fun. If you want to go, I'll treat you. As he spoke, Hippocampus winked at him. That place? From Hippocampus's expression, Naruto could guess what kind of place it was. As a normal man, Naruto was a little tempted. However, the scene in front of him was projected to the private meeting room through the mental link. Inside the meeting room was the director, Guru, who was responsible for the makeup, movements, and so on. Tesuke? Men. Guru mocked Hippocampus. Then, he changed his tone and tempted Naruto. Master, don't go to such a dirty place. If you want. She didn't say the rest of her words, but the look in her beautiful eyes had already explained everything. Naruto's consciousness projection rolled his eyes. Do your job and stop fooling around. At the same time, Defei's private laboratory in the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute was playing the scene of Guru seducing Naruto. Clearly, Defei was using his 5-star authority to spy on him. Defei stared at the screen and muttered, according to the analysis of the soul power fluctuations, Guru was telling the truth. So Guru really wants to be Boss's woman? TSK. Then it seems that Boss has one more woman in reserve. But Guru's limbs are incomplete. It doesn't seem to be a problem. Orochimaru agreed to help Kabuto research the cloning technology. I think it won't be difficult to cultivate a perfect pair of legs. As he muttered, Defei listed Guru's name on a chart. There was a long string on the chart, and the name of the chart was Boss's Ready Wife Data Analysis Chart. Chapter 349. Defei's datasheet was very comprehensive. Not only was there a name on it, but there was also a detailed data analysis behind the name. There was intimacy, favorability event analysis, hand-holding success rate, and milestone records. There were 2 values for intimacy. One was for the girl's relationship with Naruto, and the other was for Naruto's relationship with the girl. The favorability event analysis was the record of the girl's feelings for Naruto, as well as the record of the time when Naruto had feelings for the girl. Each was very detailed and was an important part of the calculation of the intimacy value. The success rate of 1,000 hands was the result of the comparison of the intimacy value of the two sides. The milestone records included several levels of physical contact. This was the summary of the knowledge obtained by Defei from other books. Level 1, 2 people alone, 2 people holding hands, 3, G, kissing, 4 people rolling in the sheets, 5 people getting married, and 6 people having a baby. There were many groups for this project, but most of the girls' names were left alone. There weren't many who were holding hands or suspected to be holding hands. Most of them were in contact with each other during training. Hugging and kissing. Hinata's name was lit up. Note: from Sakura Haruno's narration. Therefore, to sum up, the one with the highest intimacy value and the highest hand-holding success rate with Naruto was Hinata. The score Defei calculated was 65. Note: brotherly intimacy. Defei's intimacy value. Greater than 0 but less than 10. Stranger. Note: 0 is a disgusting stranger, 10 is a friendly stranger. Greater than 10 but less than 20. Acquaintance. Greater than 20 but less than 30. Friend. Greater than 30 but less than 40. Teammate. Greater than 40 but less than 50. Best friend. Greater than 50 but less than 60. Intimacy. Greater than 60 but less than 70. Love. All 70 and above could be called pa. This value. It was unknown where Defei learned it from. However, there was a very questionable book beside Defei, Intimate Paradise. But there was another girl whose value was not low. 04. 64 points. To be precise, this score did not come from Naruto. Therefore, Defei had been struggling with whether to categorize this girl here. Defei's thoughts moved and fell on 04's name. A video popped up. It was the Hot Spring Inn, 04's private martial arts arena. On the training field, 04 and Naruto were sparring. In the video, the two of them were locked in a fierce battle, and 04 was easily pinned to the ground by Naruto. However, 04 suddenly changed the gravity, catching Naruto off guard. 04 instantly suppressed Naruto. Their bodies swapped positions in the weightlessness, and then the gravity suddenly increased. 04 rode on Naruto's body, but because of the gravity acting on them, due to inertia, 04's lips kissed Naruto. If this was an accident, then Big Fatty wouldn't have been able to capture this data. The calculation formula used by Big Fatty to capture the data was the moment the girl beside Naruto had a favorable impression of Naruto. Condition 1. Opposite sex. Condition 2. The opponent's soul power fluctuation is abnormal. Thus, there was a follow-up after this. The moment their lips parted, 04 retracted the gravity and looked up. But then, 04's lips pressed down again. The most shameful thing was that in the video, Naruto smacked his lips as if he was eating dessert. The Naruto in the video wasn't Naruto's body. It was Nine Tails, but it was using Naruto's body. Big Fatty was very conflicted. Should it attribute this scene to Naruto? The body was Naruto's, right? Then, the one 04 saw was Naruto, so the favorable impression and kiss was also Naruto. But the one controlling the body was that damn fox. Earlier, when Naruto was controlling the body, 04 didn't show any abnormalities. From this perspective, it wasn't wrong to say that it was Nine Tails. Big Fatty stared at the video with round eyes. It raised its paws and tapped its custom-made sofa. Big Fatty's custom-made sofa was a bit interesting. It had a backrest, but instead of a table or chair, there was a stick that could be held. How about making a separate group for Nine Tails and Naruto? Big Fatty thought about it and finally rejected this idea. If it was just one, it would be a bit difficult to make a list. If there were more in the future, it wouldn't be too late to make a list. Big Fatty added a note under 04's name and signed the two words, Nine Tails, in red. That's right. Should I tell Boss about this? Logically speaking, it should tell him, but if it did, Boss would know that it was spying on Boss's private life. It didn't know what would be waiting for it. It was very likely that its authority would be restricted. It might even have its 5-star identity card revoked. If it lost its 5-star identity card, it wouldn't be able to spy on Boss's private life anymore. So, it was better not to tell him. Thinking this, Big Fatty turned off the system in satisfaction and pulled up the video of Windflower Snow. In the video, Windflower Snow was changing clothes. It was just a coat. However, Big Fatty wasn't looking at this. It was looking at the snow sculpture beside Windflower Snow. Big Fatty stared at the snow sculpture with bright eyes. At this moment, a pop-up window popped up. It was a form. The name on the form was My Heartbeat Statistic Table. There was also a string of names on it. Among them, there was a column named Big White. The red heart flickered, and the heartbeat index jumped from 65 to 66. Big Fatty turned around to look at the number and was a little shy. Then, it turned back to look at the valiant snow sculpture. 67. 68. Boss. I think I'm in love. At this moment, a smaller, gray snow sculpture appeared on the screen. The data on the other name on the statistic table changed. 66. 67. In front of the data was written, Little Gray. At the same time, Big White's data fell from 68 to 67. Big Fatty looked at the falling data with heartache. The bad thing is that I have to choose one of these two. Boss, what should I do? As a bird, it's okay to be a little unfaithful, right? But I'm betting my fate on you, Boss. If Boss only chooses one person, I'll only choose one bird. If Boss has a bunch of wives, I'll be the mother of the world. Big Fatty spoke as if he was full of pride. At the same time, it looked at the long list of names on the list. There were so many of them that it didn't pale in comparison to Naruto. At the same time, Naruto, who didn't know that he was being used as a guide to his bird life, accepted the mission to the Eastern District. Beside him, the seahorse said earnestly, Why do you have to do this? Being a virgin isn't a pride, it's a shame. Every day that you maintain it is another day that your life is stained even more. Naruto didn't even turn his head. Then let me go down in history with infamy. The seahorse shook its head. Silly child. The world of boys and men is different. It's a completely different world. Why do you always refuse to enter it? Chapter 350. The East District of the Country of Rain. The collapsed underground sewer was being dredged. Naruto used earthmeld to prop up the original collapsed area, and the workers seized the time to repair the pipes that were broken due to the collapse. Underground, it was really an excellent place. Naruto was very satisfied with this place, especially after his chakra propped it up. He no longer had to worry about Tendo Pain noticing his little movements. As for the issue of chakra's aura, Naruto tried his best to control the original spiritual power of this body to synthesize chakra. It wasn't easy to do this. First of all, the most basic thing was that the original owners didn't reject him. He didn't know if it was because Naruto took care of the little pufferfish, but the original owner's spiritual power's rejection of him was getting lower and lower these days. When I get home today, I have to make some delicious food for the little dolphin. With this thought, Naruto found that the wisp of spiritual power he controlled was easier to control, and it even took the initiative to cooperate. Naruto's spiritual body looked at the sleeping mass in the spiritual world, which was the soul of the original owner of this body. He asked suspiciously, Are you still retaining your consciousness? That mass of soul power was motionless and playing dead. Naruto couldn't make up his mind. He scanned the soul with his consciousness and didn't find any reaction from the other party's consciousness. In other words, there was no active thought. To put it simply, this situation was the state of being an idiot who didn't know anything. But Naruto had the illusion that the other party's consciousness still existed. Naruto stared at the soft mass of soul power, staring. The other party didn't respond. Or, protecting his sister had been integrated into this brother's instinctive consciousness? Just like the instinct to survive? If that was the case, then he really was a great big brother. Forget it, whether your consciousness is still there or not, I'll help you take care of your sister. Naruto made a promise. The last bit of rejection of this body disappeared. It felt as if he was more than 3,000 meters above sea level and had difficulty breathing, and suddenly an oxygen tank fell from the sky. That was a clear and relaxed experience. As long as Naruto wanted to, he could even use this body as his second body. It could be said to be a perfect possession. The only thing left was to kick the original owner out of the room. Of course, Naruto didn't intend to take over this body. After all, this body was very weak and couldn't be compared to his Uzumaki bloodline. Naruto shook his head with a wry smile and sighed. You're really willing to give up anything for your sister. Even this country is nothing compared to your sister, right? That lump of soul power didn't give him any feedback. However, Naruto appreciated this kind of person. In contrast, he didn't like people like Itachi. Perhaps this was selfishness? In any case, Naruto felt that it was wrong for Itachi to wipe out his entire clan. At least, he wouldn't do that. If it were him, he would have led the Uchiha clan to take down the Wood Leaf. As for Itachi's evaluation of the Uchiha clan, he said that the Uchiha clan is not broad-minded enough. Naruto's idea is that as long as the leader is broad-minded enough, it will be fine. Isn't it? Naruto's consciousness returned to what he was going to do, and the perception barrier expanded underground. It only expanded in the range of Naruto's chakra. God knows if Pain, Nagato, or the other members of the Akatsuki have other means of detection, so it's better to be careful. In the perception barrier, Naruto found the thing he was looking for: the rats. Naruto's plan was to control the local small animals of the East District to explore the East District. This plan can be said to be extremely careful. The selection of rats was so strict. It can be seen that Naruto's importance to the Akatsuki has reached a level that can't be added. A large nest of nearly 100 rats was controlled by Naruto. They scattered, wandering in the sewers of the East District, and began to explore the East District. At the end of the day's work, night fell. Naruto used today's salary to buy pork, vegetables, and fruits. Why did he use today's salary? Because most of the money in this body was originally in the bank card, and Naruto didn't know the bank card number. His sister also didn't know. This is awkward. When he returned home, as soon as the door opened, his well-behaved little pufferfish sat at the door and waited for a long time. Welcome home. The little pufferfish's voice was very sweet, and Naruto felt warm in his heart. Pufferfish, I said you don't have to sit at the door and wait for me. Naruto rubbed the little pufferfish's head lovingly, and the little pufferfish stretched out her hand. Gift. Gift? What gift? Is it a birthday? Or an anniversary? But he didn't prepare anything. Naruto was quick-witted. Let me put the things in the kitchen first. I bought a lot of vegetables today. I'll make something delicious for you in a while. Fortunately, the little pufferfish was well-behaved and didn't ask. Naruto quickly asked Gurney in the spiritual network, "What should I do? What gift should I prepare?" Gurney suggested, "How about giving her a pair of virtual reality glasses? With those things, she won't be bored." The virtual reality glasses were directly connected to a person's spiritual power, similar to an illusion that allowed people to watch virtual reality movies. Currently, it was only distributed in the Snow Country and hadn't been promoted to other countries. This seems like a good idea. If the virtual reality glasses are equipped with a perception barrier, then the little pufferfish can even replace vision. Thinking of this, Naruto was a little moved. But the little pufferfish wasn't a ninja, and she didn't have chakra in her body. This can be solved through the spiritual network. But strictly speaking, the perception barrier can't be used, because it might be noticed by the Akatsuki. Then, it can be replaced with an electronic device. Thinking of this, Naruto shouted in the spiritual network's public chat area, "Someone come and make something for me." Naruto immediately explained the little pufferfish's situation. And Naruto's request was to link the virtual reality glasses and the electronic camera together. The technology needed didn't need to be developed. After all, when solving the storage problem of the spiritual network's database, they had already developed the technology of transcoding runes and electrical signals. Now, they just needed to do it directly. After Naruto issued the task, Gurney suggested, "I think the glasses should be changed into a collar, a lace collar. This way, not only will it not look out of place, but it will also look very cute." Naruto was a little surprised. "Huh? I didn't expect you to use your brain. I originally wanted to change it to earrings." Gurney rolled her eyes and said, "Earrings need to have ear holes. How can the little pufferfish have them? Besides, I've always used my brain, okay?" "Really? Okay. I admit that you've always used your brain, but you're too lazy to use your body. Hurry up and get to work. I want to see the finished product when I'm cooking dinner." The extremely capable monsters of the Snow Mountain started to move. This task was extremely simple for the girls who often developed small puppets to fight each other. While Naruto was cooking, the girls each made several versions of the lace collar. Little Gurney made a snow-white one. Gurney made a black lace one. Big Gurney made a pink one. Naruto watched the girls work through the video chat system, but he couldn't help but interrupt, "Just make one collar or whatever. Can you guys make the camera first?" Big Fatty said, "We have a ready-made camera. The Heavenly Eye one that I developed a few days ago can be used directly." Little Gurney complained, "What Heavenly Eye one? I think it's more like Peeping Tom one. It actually took out all the snacks I hid." "Humph." Big Fatty wanted to say that it found the snacks, but it was actually a 5-star authorization. As for the Heavenly Eye one, that was just a cover. Big Fatty was secretly pleased with himself, smart as I am. At the kitchen door, the little pufferfish's stomach growled a few times. "Big brother, when will dinner be ready? Where's my present?" Chapter 351. At night, the rats went out. At the sewers in the streets and alleys, pairs of sneaky eyes observed. Squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak, squeak. A small rat squeaked a few times, but it was kicked back by a large rat beside it. It turned around and glared at the rat with a fierce gaze. The meaning was self-evident. When translated, it was saying, "Squeak your mother. Give me AF asterisk King Squeak." Naruto naturally saw this scene, and for a moment, he felt very complicated. These rats could be said to be under his control, but they could also be said to be under his control. It was somewhat similar to the shadow clone technique, but it was used on the basis of a spirit body and did not require chakra. It was formed by the separation of soul power. To put it simply, it was the spirit clone technique. It could also be considered a clone, but for a clone to beat up another clone. Just thinking about it made his balls hurt. What was even more painful was that when the large rat was about to sneak out, the small rat that was kicked back became angry and bit the large rat's tail. Then, a big battle between the two rats took place. Then, the two rats encountered other rats during their fight. Sometimes, just looking at a group of rats could trigger a fight. How could he let a hot-tempered person like this get bumped into so suddenly? There was no need to say who was looking at whom, and the group of rats started fighting each other. Naruto, who was cooking, was very angry. In his agitation, he crushed the wooden handle of the wok. The moment his hand touched the iron pistol in the wooden handle, hot! Naruto's shout startled the little pufferfish. Big brother, what happened to you?" Naruto looked speechlessly at his scalded hand. Chakra flowed in his palm to relieve the pain. He replied, "It's nothing. My mouth was scalded by meat." The little pufferfish giggled happily. On the other side, Naruto ordered all the rats through the mental link, "No fighting." Only then did the group of rats stare at each other with their beady eyes and begin to work. The East District of the Rain Country was indeed similar to what the seahorse had said. The streets and alleys were pitch black, and there were few lights on. Using the word barren was not an exaggeration, but a more accurate term would be ghost city. A city without people was just like a university town during the holidays in his previous life. Only ghosts would patronize it. The rats spread out in all directions. Affected by their natural instincts, when they passed by the trash can, they would unconsciously rummage through it. Then, disappointed at the empty trash can, he turned around and left. Some of the hot-tempered rats would even kick the trash can fiercely, and then they would roll around on the ground in pain. What a joke, however. Naruto didn't interfere with the rat rummaging through the trash can. It was better this way. Keeping the rat's nature could be used as a disguise. As for the one who kicked the trash can, Naruto was a little worried that such a short temper would cause her to die from anger. The rats passed through the streets and alleys as if they were the masters of this place. A very clever mouse somehow managed to climb up the wall and found the target that Naruto was looking for through the window. In the rat's eyes, there was a bedroom under the bright moonlight. There was a black windbreaker with a fire cloud totem hanging on the wall of the bedroom. This was the attire of the Akatsuki. Then, the owner of this room was obviously a member of the Akatsuki. Who could it be? Naruto was a little nervous. He was about to order the rat to leave, but he didn't expect that the rat would suddenly slam its head against the glass of the window. Then, it became angry and started punching and kicking the glass. The most amazing thing was that the window was broken, and it wasn't injured. The arrogant rat successfully slipped into the room. At this time, Naruto didn't know what to do other than facepalm. The rat snuck into the room and sniffed with its nose. Then, it ran with small steps. Soon, it found its target on the table. It was a half-eaten bread. Then, it opened its mouth and bit down on it. So, it was because it smelled food. Naruto was a little speechless. At this moment, the bedroom door suddenly opened. There was someone. Naruto's heart skipped a beat. He wanted the rat to run away quickly, but the rat wasn't afraid at all. It laid on the bread and ate it one bite at a time. This rat was courting death. It was probably going to be crippled. Naruto was already lamenting for the rat. The door was completely pushed open and a boy with long bangs walked in. The boy looked at the rat who was gnawing on his bread in a daze. He walked in and pressed his right hand on the table. His index finger knocked on the table and said, "Hey, this is my bread." And the rat raised its head and glared at Dead Ale. Then, it hugged the bread with a vigilant look, like a dog protecting its food. Then, it continued to gnaw on the bread. The teenager knocked on the table again. "Hey, according to the rules of our Qing Shui Street, those who eat the same bread are brothers. Do you think you have the right to be my brother?" And the young man roared. Naruto rolled his eyes and chatted with the rat. This guy's brain seemed really abnormal. Who was the person who came in? Under the moonlight, the boy's golden hair was a little dark. His face was delicate and childish, like a big boy. Iwagakure, explosion is art. Dead Ale. And the reason why the color was still a little dark was that the rat was originally colorblind. The world it saw had no color. But after merging with Naruto's spiritual force, the spiritual force subconsciously extracted the vitality in the cells and more or less synthesized some chakra. This changed some life forms. Naruto hadn't noticed this yet, but it was going on quietly. The rat who was eating the bread raised its head and screamed, "Squeak, squeak, squeak." Then, it grabbed a piece of bread with its claws and stuffed it into its mouth. It chewed in big mouthfuls. Dead Ale and the rat looked at each other. The rat stared with its small eyes, but its momentum didn't lose. At the same time, it stuffed the bread into its mouth. Dead Ale was suddenly amused by the rat and laughed while holding his stomach. Then, he said very happily, "Well, you passed, I will cover you in the future, and fuck. This is also possible." Looking at the scene in front of him, Naruto couldn't find any logical reason for it. Then, Dead Ale took out a contract scroll and pulled the hand of the rat who was still eating the bread and pressed it on it. The rat's hand was stabbed by Dead Ale's chakra and a drop of blood flowed out. Dead Ale also left a drop of blood on the scroll. Ninja Beast contract completed. Naruto was stunned by the way he showed off his IQ. He could feel that there was a connection between him and Deidara, but Dead Ale didn't feel it. Motherf***. Dead Ale wouldn't have signed him, right? Naruto's heart suddenly became uneasy. Chapter 352. Did Deidara sign him up? This was a very serious question. In the room illuminated only by the moonlight, after the big mouse stuffed all the big bread into its stomach, Deidara tried to use the psychic spell. Bang! With a bang, a burst of smoke curled up. The mouse that was too full to walk on the table was summoned to the ground by Deidara. F***ck. The mouse opened its mouth and cursed in human language. Deidara was very excited after hearing this sentence. I knew you were not simple, but I didn't expect you to have opened your spiritual wisdom. Naruto raised the mouse's head and looked up at the big childish face, roaring in his heart. I opened your grandma's spiritual wisdom. What happened? Naruto didn't know either. At this time, he was a little scared. The moment Deidara used the psychic spell, Naruto's soul was pulled out of the body of the pufferfish and entered the body of the mouse. F***ck, I can't go back, right? Naruto lowered his head and looked at the furry little claws. For the first time, Naruto noticed that these claws didn't seem to be mouse claws, because they were obviously shorter than ordinary mouse claws. Short-legged mouse? It can't be so sad, right? Naruto began to look around for a mirror and then went over. In the mirror, Naruto's current appearance was reflected. It was a furry, chubby little guy with short legs and a flat tail. The fur on its head and back were white and gray, and its belly was snow white and fluffy. The most distinctive feature was its big eyes that were 4 times larger than ordinary mice. Naruto finally knew how this guy climbed up the high wall. This was not a King mouse at all, but a little flying squirrel. Little flying squirrels were also mice, but different from mice. They belonged to the squirrel family, the flying squirrel genus. Small in size, blunt mouth, lips, big eyes, normal ears, thick limbs, and flat tail. Naruto recalled the records about little flying squirrels and compared them with his own appearance. That's right. It was a little flying squirrel. The little flying squirrel did not have wings, but it could stretch out its fur and glide over short distances like a kite. Hey! As a younger brother, how dare you ignore your elder brother? Big brother my ass. Go F***king big brother. Naruto turned around and stared at Deidara with a pair of big eyes. Deidara tilted his head and pondered for a while. He then took out a bag of bread from under the table and handed it over. Do you want to eat some more? Naruto was speechless. Previously, he had already eaten bread that was 1 size bigger than his body. What the hell was he eating now? Did he really think he was a pig? No, the one who ate the bread wasn't him. It was also him. Forget it, who cares who he is? Naruto's mind was in a mess now. However, what made Naruto even more speechless was that when the milky fragrance of the bread entered his nostrils, his saliva started to secrete at an uncontrollable rate. At the same time, his stomach started to growl. What kind of stomach was that? This kind of appetite was too abnormal. Could it be that this mouse was a primordial mutant? Naruto probed the little flying squirrel's body and quickly found the problem. At that moment, his mental strength was uncontrollably fusing with the life force in the mouse's body cells, continuously producing chakra. Growl! His stomach growled even louder. Naruto had no choice but to snatch the bread from Deidara's hand and stuff it into his mouth. After eating the bread, not only did his stomach not feel better, it became even hungrier. Thus, Naruto dove into Deidara's drawer that was filled with delicious food and began to stuff himself. However, these foods with extremely low energy seemed to be unable to satisfy his needs. Naruto tried to control his mental strength that had gone out of control, but it was to no avail. As long as his spirit was in this body, he would produce mental strength with just a thought. What should he do? The little flying squirrel cells did not have much life force that could be extracted. If this continued, he would definitely die of old age. At that moment, Naruto could not be bothered with the fact that Deidara was able to summon him over using the psychic technique. If the little flying squirrel died, then his spirit would have no place to hide? Wouldn't he be exposed? At that moment, some messy images suddenly flashed through Naruto's consciousness. There was a dark hole in the wall, a clean trash can that did not even have a feather, and a huge moon in the sky. Were these the little flying squirrel's memories? Naruto's consciousness landed on one of the images. That image moved, and at the same time, the other images also moved. More and more images appeared. However, the strange thing was that these images had a pulling force. As long as Naruto's spirit approached, it would pull at Naruto's spirit. In a moment of carelessness, Naruto's arm and most of his body were pulled into the carriage. Naruto was shocked and hurriedly pulled his body out. After pulling his body out, his spirit was far away from the images and disappeared after being sucked in. Naruto tried to raise his hand and touch it again. The moment his spirit touched the images, the pulling force appeared again. At the same time, Naruto noticed that the images were not memories at all. They were images transmitted by the 100 rats outside the house through the mental link. Naruto pulled his hand back again. Could it be that he could use the mental link to enter another rat's body? But what if that was not the case? You still want to eat? Dead Ale stared at the little flying squirrel in the drawer. In the blink of an eye, Naruto had already eaten all the delicious food in the drawer. Naruto noticed that Deidara always ended his speech with a hum sound. What kind of weird habit was this? Wait here, I'll go find something for you to eat. Dead Ale rushed out. Naruto's consciousness sank into the little rat spirit world again. Should he give it a try? Naruto gritted his teeth and pressed his hand on one of the images staring at the moon again. The pulling force came. This time, Naruto did not resist and his spirit was directly sucked in. The next moment, a big moon appeared in front of Naruto's eyes. He succeeded. He had successfully transferred to another body. Then, Naruto's heart gave birth to a bold idea. Could he travel through the mental network? He had never tried this before. Brother. What's wrong with you, brother? Get up quickly. The little pufferfish's voice seemed to come from a very far place. Naruto noticed that it was one of the images in the mental link. Then the place where this image was connected to was the pufferfish's body? Naruto went in. The next moment, he returned to the pufferfish's body. The little pufferfish was still calling him in his ears. Naruto opened his eyes. There was a smell of a burnt pot in the air. F***ck. My braised pork ribs. F***ck. Naruto immediately stood up. What braised pork ribs? It was pitch black inside the pot. It was already burnt and smoking. Brother, are you okay? A good pot of pork ribs was wasted just like that. Naruto's heart was filled with sorrow. He replied, I am fine. I just felt a little dizzy just now. The little pufferfish was stunned and then immediately put on a straight face. Brother, tell me the truth. Did you not prepare a gift for me and want to act shamelessly? Naruto. Chapter 353. He poured away the pork ribs in the pot, then restarted the fire to make another pot. Naruto took care of the little pufferfish. On the other hand, he contacted the girls who were making virtual reality collars through the spiritual network. Gurney, set up a visual connection with me. Gurney gave Naruto access. Naruto tried pressing his spirit body on the visual connection, but the suction force did not exist. Naruto tried to squeeze his spirit body into the spiritual network. But he did not manage to squeeze in. Awkward. Naruto then tried the images sent by the mice. The suction force was still there. Could it be? Was it because of the spiritualization technique? It was very likely. Naruto was thinking about it when the images in the spiritual world dimmed. Naruto was shocked. He started to investigate what had happened. He realized that the other mice also had the phenomenon of chakra being produced by the fusion of spiritual power and vitality. As for the few images that disappeared, they were all due to excessive life force extraction and death. 5, 10, 20. The images started to fade. Naruto did not have time to react. In less than a minute, only one mouse was left. It was the little flying squirrel. The little flying squirrel was not in a good condition either. Naruto's heart sank again and again as those images extinguished. At this moment, Dead Ale ran back with a pile of things in his arms. The funniest thing was that there was frozen meat inside. The frozen meat was cold and hard. The little flying squirrel pounced on it and started to gobble it up. Naruto originally thought that the little flying squirrel was about to die, but miraculously, the little flying squirrel's survival instincts made it swallow continuously. The food entered its stomach, and with the enhancement of chakra, its stomach quickly broke down the food. It consumed and replenished at the same time, reaching a balance. However, Naruto could tell that this balance was only temporary. When the little flying squirrel stopped eating, the balance would be broken. However, when the little flying squirrel chewed on the frozen meat, its vitality began to increase. At the same time, in Dedeale's eyes, the little flying squirrel was moving towards the fat flying squirrel, the big fat flying squirrel, and the big fat flying squirrel. Like an inflated balloon, the little thing that was originally only the size of a fist actually grew to 1/2 meter tall after eating a piece of frozen meat the size of a cow's thigh. This is ninja beast meat. Naruto recalled what Nine Tails had said about eating toad sage to strengthen one's body. The mental energy that Naruto had left in the flying squirrel's body seemed to have finally reached a balance with the life force in its body. The little flying squirrel let out a burp and lay down on the ground with its bulging belly. She lazily rubbed her head and found a comfortable position. Then she tiredly closed her eyes and fell asleep. As the only one out of 100 rats that survived, it was something to be proud of. Of course, Deidara should be thanked the most. Looking at the little flying squirrel, Naruto suddenly remembered that Fatty and Rascal had been controlled by him before. Then, they evolved from ordinary beasts to ninja beasts. Naruto originally thought that it was Little Gunny's credit, but now it seemed that it was definitely related to him. It was just that his soul power wasn't as abnormal as it was now, and he didn't create a soul power clone to merge with their bodies. In Deidara's bedroom, Deidara was speechless as he looked at the big flying squirrel that was sleeping after eating. At this moment, footsteps could be heard from the door. Not one or two, but a series of footsteps. "Hey! Why are you so noisy?" The door was pushed open, and a person crawled in. It was Scorpion, who had teamed up with Deidara. Deidara stood in front of the big flying squirrel and laughed. "Ahahaha, of course, it's for art." Scorpion walked in and turned his head to see a big flying squirrel lying on the ground behind Deidara. He asked curiously, "Are you planning to cook meat at night? But when did your mouth become so strange and start eating rats?" Deidara corrected him. "Wrong. This isn't a rat. It's a small flying squirrel." Scorpion turned to look at Deidara and asked, "Which part is small?" Deidara was speechless. Now it seemed that this flying squirrel wasn't small at all. But it was impossible for him to agree with Scorpion's words. He retorted, "Who said I was going to eat it? This is my new little brother. Don't look at how quiet he is now. He was very fierce just now." Scorpion in the base didn't wear the Fire Cloud Totem uniform. He directly exposed the scorpion-shaped puppet, also known as Puppet 18 Leeches. The puppet made from the killed ninja looked like a human shell lying on the ground. On its back was a ghost face, and a sharp metal tail like a scorpion's tail stretched out from the ghost face's open mouth. "Fierce? Except for a lump of meat. I don't see how fierce it is." Deidara raised his hand and said, "When I first saw it, it was only the size of my fist, and then it ate until it became like this. Don't you think it's fierce?" Scorpion looked at Deidara's fist. At this time, Deidara's other hand's palm stuck out his tongue. Then he looked at the fat lump on the ground. "If that's the case, it's a bit fierce. But your aesthetic is just you actually like this kind of furry little thing. I'm even more disappointed in your art." The two of them began to spout insults at each other. On the other side, Naruto was celebrating the little pufferfish's birthday. The birthday gift was 3 virtual reality collars, black, white, and pink. Naruto said that he didn't want so many, but the girls agreed that the little pufferfish could wear them according to his mood. As for the Sky Eye one developed by Fatty, Naruto also saw it. It was a big eyeball that looked like a bamboo dragonfly on its head. It can be driven by chakra and controlled by thoughts up and down, left and right. Of course, it could be used without chakra. After all, the eye was an electronic product. It just couldn't fly. Naruto put the virtual reality collar on the little pufferfish. The collar was successfully bound to the little pufferfish. The big eyeball rolled around and locked onto Naruto. The little pufferfish said in disbelief, "Brother, I actually saw it. I saw brother." Naruto made a shushing gesture. "Sue, lower your voice. This thing can't be seen by others." Without waiting for Naruto to finish speaking, the little pufferfish answered, "I know. Brother stole this good thing again, right?" The tens of thousands of words that Naruto had made up were all stuck in his throat. Finally, he nodded and smiled brightly. "Yes, brother stole it for Pufferfish, so Pufferfish has to keep it a secret." The little Pufferfish jumped up and hugged Naruto. Pufferfish knows that brother is the best. Pufferfish likes brother the most. Naruto's face was numb. At the same time, Fatty also had a numb face. The statistics table that Naruto had prepared for his wives jumped out again, and Pufferfish's name appeared in it. This time, Boss used someone else's body, but the one who gave the gift was Boss. Did this girl like Boss? Or did this body originally represent brother? Big Fatty was in a dilemma. Chapter 354. Late at night, the little pufferfish finally got tired of playing and went to sleep after saying good night to Naruto. Naruto returned to his room and lay down on the bed. 9 llamas. Sensei, can you prepare some ninja beast meat for me? 9 llamas lazily turned over and replied, "Do you want to cultivate that flying squirrel?" The spiritual link between Naruto and 9 Tails has always been there. What Naruto experienced, 9 Tails didn't deliberately avoid it. Otherwise, under the rules of summoning technique, as long as Deidara uses summoning technique, my soul is likely to be summoned. So I have to find a way to strengthen the little guy's body in advance. The little flying squirrel is now Deidara's ninja beast. If Naruto can enter the little flying squirrel's body at will, then he can directly infiltrate the Akatsuki. How can Naruto let him miss such an opportunity? 9 Tails looked up at the moonlight outside the window and sighed. "It's late at night, why can't you let the fox rest? Ninja beast meat." Huh? QB suddenly had an idea as he thought of something else. Danzo's arm, the first generation cells. "Naruto, why don't you try the first generation cells?" Naruto was stunned by 9 Tails' sudden words. What does he mean by trying the first generation cells? However, Naruto's reaction was also very fast. He quickly understood what 9 Tails meant. "You want the little guy to eat that arm?" 9 Tails instigated, "That's a big supplement, 1 bite can eat many ninja beasts. Moreover, it's so late now, and the ninja beasts outside have already gone home, where can we catch it?" "Ninja beasts go home at night? Go home my ass." Naruto rolled his eyes and was too lazy to mock 9 Tails' lousy excuse for not wanting to go out. "But that's human meat, right?" 9 Tails said indifferently, "It's not like you can eat it. Besides, ninja beasts are trained this way. Let's give it a try then." However, could this little fellow absorb the flesh of first Dai's cells? But what was certain was that if he absorbed it, it would definitely be a great supplement. Naruto got up and went to the little pufferfish's house to take a look. The little pufferfish was already fast asleep. But to be on the safe side, Naruto took out a stick of incense and lit it in the little pufferfish's room. This stick of incense was made from the head of the butterfly shiitake mushroom that had fallen off last time. It was fragrant and could help one sleep. It was harmless to the body. After setting up the incense, Naruto quietly left the little pufferfish's room. Then, he set up a simple barrier in his house. Spirit communication technique. In the next moment, along with the flower pot, the arm planted in the flower pot was summoned by Naruto. The 11-3 Tomo Sharingan on his arm was staring at Naruto. He saw Naruto pick up the knife and struggle violently. The talisman in Naruto's hand extended to his arm. Binding curse. The arm finally stopped struggling. Naruto took the knife and cut off a piece of flesh from the arm. The cut on the flesh healed in the blink of an eye and then shrank into a small ball of flesh. Naruto pinched it. It was quite elastic. At this time, Nine Tails smirked and said, "Actually, you can also try it. It's very nutritious." Naruto rolled his eyes and ignored Nine Tails' teasing. Then, he communicated with the little flying squirrel with his spiritual power. In Deidara's bedroom, Deidara was lying on the bed, already fast asleep. The little flying squirrel was lying on the ground with a blanket covering his body. It should be Deidara who found it. Naruto communicated with the little flying squirrel, and the little flying squirrel woke up quietly. Then, under Naruto's command, he went out the door. To be precise, he jumped out of the window. He propped up his 4 limbs and glided with the wind, looking extremely cool. After the little flying squirrel left, a strong wind blew into the house and woke Deidara up. Deidara waved his hand and was about to close the window. The little guy went out? Then this guy might come back later. What if the little guy couldn't come back now that the window was closed? Deidara glanced at the window that had just been repaired. With that guy's bad temper, he might kick the window again, right? Deidara was a little hesitant. Then, he didn't close the window. Instead, he tightened the quilt on his body. He muttered to himself, "Looks like I'll have to make another key tomorrow and teach that little guy to use the front door." The little flying squirrel glided to the house opposite, then climbed onto the roof of the opposite house and glided again. Finally, he opened the manhole cover and fell into the sewer. In the sewer, there was a mouse holding a meatball the size of a ping-pong ball in his hand. The little flying squirrel walked over and swallowed the meatball into his stomach. Originally, he had planned to leave after eating, but the meatball suddenly became restless after entering his stomach. It turned into a piece of wood and was about to pierce out of the little flying squirrel's stomach. Fortunately, chakra in the little flying squirrel's body blocked it, but the little guy was in so much pain that he felt dizzy. The little flying squirrel struggled in pain. Naruto saw the scene in front of him through the visual sharing of the mouse that delivered the meatball. Nine Llamas Sensei. It seems to be in pain. Nine Tails commanded, "Enter its body." The little flying squirrel's stomach was bulging as if it could burst at any time. Naruto did not hesitate and pressed his spiritual body on the visual sharing screen with the little flying squirrel. A suction force came, and Naruto's spiritual body was sucked into the little flying squirrel's body. Soul power spread out, and the spiritual body and the little flying squirrel's body established a connection. Pain. After Naruto successfully entered the little flying squirrel's body, the little flying squirrel's sense of pain was transmitted to Naruto. Naruto's spiritual power penetrated the little flying squirrel's stomach. This time, Naruto could clearly sense spiritual fluctuations from the meatball. This can't be Danzo SF * King consciousness, right? Or is it part of Shodai's memory fragments? Or is it caused by those Sharingans? Naruto's spiritual power rushed in. The meatball's spiritual power was not weak, but compared to Naruto's divine transformation, it was not strong enough. After a few surges, the meatball's consciousness was wiped out. The meatball finally stopped struggling, and the stick retracted, turning back into a meatball. However, the little flying squirrel's stomach seemed to be unable to digest this meatball. What was even more embarrassing was that the stick had used too much force, and it was bleeding now. The meatball could sense that the blood was stuck to it, as if a tumor had grown in its stomach. It would be difficult to take it out now. What was worse was that although the meatball had lost its consciousness, it was still sucking the little flying squirrel's blood. Shodai's cells are very strange. Nine Llamas Sensei? What do we do? Nine Tails replied, "Set up a barrier, and I'll send some chakra over to try." Naruto cut the little flying squirrel's hand, and blood flowed out to replace the ink used to set up the barrier. After the barrier was set up, Naruto instructed, "This barrier's strength is average. Control your chakra, and don't use too much." Nine-Tails replied, "Got it." In the next moment, Nine-Tails' chakra was transmitted to the little flying squirrel's body through the spiritual link between it and Naruto. Nine-Tails' chakra stimulated the little flying squirrel's body, and with the healing effect of the Yang attribute chakra, the little flying squirrel's hand was healed in the blink of an eye. Shodai cells, Naruto's soul power, and Nine-Tails' chakra. As long as this little flying squirrel did not die, its aptitude would definitely be monstrous. Nine-Tails' chakra strengthened the little flying squirrel's body, and the little flying squirrel's digestive ability was continuously strengthened. However, the meatball was not digested. Instead, it suddenly deflated and fused with the little flying squirrel's body. A distorted human face started to form in the little flying squirrel's stomach. Naruto recognized this face. It was on Danzo's left arm. It was Naruto's face. At this time, Kyuubi urged Naruto, "Hurry up, there is still a consciousness hidden in the meat, come and swallow it." Chapter 355. Could the other consciousness in the body be the first Naruto? As Nine-Tails shouted, the face of the first Naruto on the little flying squirrel's belly became clearer. It opened its mouth wide as if it was about to shout. At the same time, the strong vitality contained in the first-generation cells began to explode in the little squirrel's body. The little flying squirrel's body began to lignify. In the blink of an eye, it began to sprout leaves. Naruto! Hurry up and devour that will. The consciousness met with Naruto. It was not Naruto who went to look for it. It was the other party who came to him. In the spiritual world, a strong vitality rushed toward Naruto. It was also filled with strong spiritual pressure. However, it was all bark and no bite. Nothing happened when the spiritual pressure hit his body like a huge wave. It was as if his face was drenched in rain. "What are you waiting for? Devour him!" Nine-tailed beast shouted. Naruto asked foolishly, "How do I swallow it?" "The giant egg is the one with the ability to swallow, not me." Nine-Tails frowned and said, "Open your mouth and eat." Could this thing be eaten? Naruto did not know. While he was hesitating, the little squirrel's head began to lignify. At this moment, Naruto clearly felt his control over the little squirrel being taken away. To be precise, the little squirrel's life form was transforming into a plant. When the little flying squirrel's body completely lignified, it might really become a plant. He did not know if he could save it then. Naruto made up his mind. He opened his mouth wide and swallowed the wisp of spiritual power that had rushed into the spiritual world. The consciousness seemed to have felt Naruto's malice. The scattered consciousness in the little squirrel's body began to gather and turned into a blurry human face. It imitated Naruto and bit toward Naruto. A minute later, when the battle in the spiritual world stopped, the little squirrel's lignified body began to gradually return to a body of flesh and blood. At the same time, the human face on its belly began to fade and disappear. It returned to its flat, snow-white belly. "How does it taste?" Nine-Tails asked curiously. Naruto painfully dragged his pregnant belly and replied, "There's no smell. This thing is tossing around in my stomach. It hurts so much. By the way, can this thing be digested?" Nine-Tails didn't know if he could digest it or not, so he just watched the show with a smile. Nine-Tails found the sight of Naruto with his big belly very funny. His hand slipped, and he recorded the scene in front of him in the form of a memory card and sent it to the Spiritual Network's public chat area. Gunny was drinking milk, but when he saw that, he spat out a mouthful of milk all over his body. Little Goo-ni was furious. He raised his hand and was about to tear off Big Goo-ni's clothes when Big Goo-ni scolded him with a dark expression. "Enough is enough, you two." Little Genie retracted his hand and said unhappily, "She was the one who started it. Look. It sprayed all over my face. It's so dirty." Gunny was still coughing violently, and the mouthful of milk made her very uncomfortable. She waved her hand repeatedly, and when she caught her breath, she quickly said, "Go to the public chat area, Naruto is pregnant." The girls hurriedly entered the public chat area. Then, they saw the image of Naruto with a big belly uploaded by Nine Tails. For a moment, the girls laughed like crazy. Look at it secretly, and delete it after 30 seconds. The nine-tailed beast yelled furtively. The girls didn't have the time to reply. They were all holding their stomachs and laughing. 30 seconds later, Nine Tails deleted the message on time. Little Guanai and the other girls quickly surrounded Nine Tails and asked what was going on. Nine Tails simply said that he had eaten something wrong and couldn't digest it. On the other side, Naruto held on for 5 minutes before her stomach finally stopped hurting. She stopped struggling, but her big belly didn't go down. She probably hadn't digested it yet. F***CK. Why do I look like I'm pregnant? How am I supposed to face people like this? Naruto complained. However, she was glad that she was a spirit body, and ordinary people couldn't see it. However, on second thought, Nine Tails could see it. Teacher Nine Llamas, my belly. Before Naruto could finish, Nine Tails said with a straight face, "Ah. It should be digested yet. It'll be fine after a while. It's not a big deal." Nine Tails looked serious, and he didn't have any intention of mocking her at all. Naruto heaved a sigh of relief. He praised in his heart, Teacher Nine Llamas is quite trustworthy sometimes. Unbeknownst to him, Nine Tails had already laughed several times in the space sealed by Nine Tails. After dealing with the remnant will in the first generation cells, the powerful vitality fused with Naruto's spiritual power and produced a large amount of chakra, which began to improve the little flying squirrel's physique. Even the little flying squirrel started to gain weight again. Like a balloon, it didn't give Naruto any time to react. In the blink of an eye, it swelled to a size larger than the damaged entrance of the sewer. It's over. I can't get out. However, the embarrassing thing was that its body was still expanding. The little flying squirrel's head reached the ceiling of the sewer. The underground sewers of the Water Nation were extremely developed and could accommodate people walking inside. Its height was as high as 2 meters. Its head hit the ceiling of the sewer. Creak. A crack appeared on the ceiling of the sewer. More and more cracks appeared, but the steel bars inside were still holding the sewer. Outside, the ground bulged and grew bigger. At this time, it was impossible for Naruto to sneak in without being discovered. As for the barrier that was set up before, it had been removed with the collapse of the wall. Naruto simply used chakra and exerted force. With a loud explosion, the giant flying squirrel finally emerged from the ground. At the same time, it burst many pipes. There were sewage pipes and water pipes. However, the giant flying squirrel's body was covered with chakra, and the dirty things couldn't splash on its body. The body of the giant flying squirrel was still growing. 3 meters, 4 meters, 5 meters, all the way up. The vitality contained in the first generation cells was completely beyond Naruto's imagination. The movement of the giant flying squirrel was not small. The rain was still falling from the sky, and Naruto knew that Tendo Pain must have sensed him. Sure enough, a minute later, Tendo Pain Yahiko, who had an orange hedgehog head, a rebellious ninja forehead protector, and a small black tube in his nose, appeared not far from the giant flying squirrel. Standing at the top of the organ-shaped tower, he looked down. The tower was more than 10 meters high, and if the body of the giant flying squirrel continued to expand, it might reach that height. Naruto was thinking, and the momentum of the body's expansion suddenly slowed down. The final height of the giant flying squirrel was 8 meters. Tendo Pain stared at the giant flying squirrel. Naruto raised his head and saw the pair of Rinnegan. Lavender eyes with big and small circles. Naruto was very calm. But Nine Tails couldn't calm down, and said in horror, "It's really Rinnegan. How can there be Rinnegan in this world? Did the old man leave his eyes?" Naruto laughed. "If that's the case, then these eyes are antiques." Chapter 356. Woodleaf Ninja Village. Jiraiya, who returned from Iwagakure, was lying on Naruto's rock with a green sedge in his mouth. The sun shone on his face, a little dazzling, but soon a cloud blocked the sun for him. Today's clouds were very heavy, one after another. Jiraiya's mouth moved, and the green sedge in his mouth began to wag its tail. He was thinking about something, about Naruto and his dead apprentice, Minato. Now there are signs that Naruto is not dead. So, what is the body that Naruto used to escape? It was indeed a living person, and it was a person who looked exactly like Naruto. Whenever he thought of this, Jiraiya's heart was full of worry. He was afraid that Naruto would grow into another Orochimaru and begin to study taboo jutsu. Jiraiya turned his head and looked at the village in front of him. Orochimaru betrayed. The old man died. Tsunade escaped. Naruto also escaped. The familiar people, the people he wanted to protect, left the village one by one. What is left in the village now? Inheritance? Rain Country, Eastern District. A 4-meter-tall giant flying squirrel was sitting on a 2-meter-high building. A large part of the building was sunk in by his fat butt. After encountering Tendo Pain last night, Conan soon came. The battle between the two sides was on the verge of breaking out. Naruto had an idea and used reverse summoning technique to summon Deidara. Then Deidara, wrapped in a sheet, explained the contract with the flying squirrel. And then, the two of them were given a very expensive ticket. There were tickets for destroying buildings, destroying sewers, and so on. The total fine was 50 million ryo. For Deidara, who didn't have any savings. It was an astronomical figure. Naruto sat on the building, and Deidara sat in the arms of the giant flying squirrel and complained, 50 million ryo. How many tasks do I have to do to pay it back? How many times did Deidara complain? Naruto couldn't remember. He just felt that his ears were going to be calloused. He said impatiently, don't waste time, I can pay it back myself. How much is 50 million ryo? If it's possible, Naruto can take it out at will. Deidara raised his head and glared at the giant flying squirrel's big furry face. After the flying squirrel grew bigger, the hair on his back and head turned silver gray. The hair on the lower jaw of the belly is still white, and the eyes have turned red due to the influence of the Kyuubi's chakra. It looks like a strange beauty. The red eyes are surrounded by black circles like eyeliner, which makes the originally big eyes even bigger and more demonic. At the same time, the little flying squirrel's ears became a lot bigger. They were round and adorable. I'll take your debt. Naruto impatiently raised his claws and wanted to slap Deidara off his body. But unfortunately, this made S-Belly's stomach. His small short claws reached S-hand S's head reached. After trying twice, Naruto gave up. Son. There's no need to keep warm, right? Get off my stomach. However, Deidara had no intention of getting off. He continued to lie in the soft fur and even rubbed comfortably. Mother Faster's cur. After another half a day, the chakra in Naruto's body stabilized, and then it shrank by a third. The two of them sat there, waiting for the giant flying squirrel's body to return to normal. Last night, the flying squirrel was 8 meters tall, and chakra gradually shrank to 4 meters after stabilizing. When it shrank to 2 meters, the two of them could almost move normally. Otherwise, if they damaged any more buildings, it would be another big ticket. The two of them sat together. Rumble! His stomach rumbled when he arrived. Then, Deidara used a clay clone to buy takeout for himself. He also ordered one for Naruto. It was a meat dish, and it smelled delicious. Naruto's resentment against Deidara reduced a lot for a while. However, when Naruto swallowed the food in one gulp, his body swelled again, from 4 meters to 5 meters. This is the meat of a ninja beast. Well, the man and the mouse looked at each other, and then silently continued to sit under the scorching sun. Yahiko Tendo Pain was considerate, and because of the two of them, he stopped the rain. While waiting, Naruto didn't stay idle, and he observed the changes in his cells with his consciousness. This process is magical. It reminded Naruto of the time when he used Kyuubi's chakra. If his body was partially Kyuubi, when the number of tails reached 3 or more, his body could even grow an exoskeleton, and his body would deform. 9 lamas, sensei, Are you formed by chakra? Do you have flesh and blood? Nine Tails lazily replied, It's not difficult to transform chakra into flesh and blood. Isn't your body that suddenly expanded now formed by chakra? By the way, the Akamichi clan in the Wood Leaf also mastered this technique. Akamichi clan? Multiplication technique. Still haven't lost weight? A pair of snow-white wings gently flapped, and Conan descended from the sky like an angel. Conan was more beautiful during the day than at night, especially when the sun shone on her body. The pair of snow-white wings set off her extraordinarily sacred. It's just that it seems to lack a little dignity, because there was a lip stud on Conan's lower lip. What a rebellious angel. Conan held a scroll in her hand and threw it to Deidara. This is the latest task, it can help you pay off your debt quickly. Deidara rolled his eyes. He knew that debt was just an excuse for work. The scroll fell in an arc, and then it was caught by the giant flying squirrel. Let me take a look first. Deidara's hand froze in the air, and his fingers twitched a few times. Naruto opened the scroll. There were a total of more than a dozen tasks on the scroll. One of them was the task of finding Tsunade. S-Class, the task required to bring her back. However, the task was marked that it had been accepted. There were also lots, flying segments, and angles after the task. This is a coincidence. Can you read? Deidara grabbed the scroll in Naruto's hand. Naruto didn't grab it again. In the end, Deidara chose a task to collect information about the human pillar force. Rokubi, the defected human pillar force of the Mist Village, Yugao. For this task, Naruto still liked it very much. If he found Rokubi, he could find a chance to merge with Rokubi's chakra. Dead Ale pulled out a pen from the scroll's axis and signed his name on the corresponding mission. Then he looked at the giant flying squirrel and turned to Conan. My ninja beast doesn't need to sign, right? Your ninja beast? This sentence sounded really awkward. Naruto grabbed Deidara's pen and retorted, Shut up. You're a human pet. He waved the pen and left two words in front of the flying squirrel's name, Uncle Rat. Deidara was furious. Who are you calling a human pet? Chapter 357. Hey, human pet. Let's go and do the mission. Early in the morning, the little flying squirrel, who had returned to the size of a palm, shouted. Dead Ale woke up with an expression of eating shit. He roared, Call me human pet again and I'll blow you away. Outside the door, Sasori's hand that was about to knock on the door stopped in mid-air. He was so embarrassed that he didn't know whether to knock or not. Then, he heard the people in the room scolding each other. Sasori, 5 minutes later, Dead Ale, Sasori, and Naruto the little flying squirrel set off to leave the rain country. Hey, human pet, how do you make your clay bomb? Can you teach me? Yesterday, when he was bored, Dead Ale showed his ninjutsu to Naruto. At that time, Naruto was sulking and couldn't be bothered with Dead Ale. Now that he thought about it, he couldn't help but want to learn. However, Naruto's shout was like the last spark that lit a firecracker. Dead Ale couldn't take it anymore. Little guy, why don't we fight? If I win, you're not allowed to call me human pet anymore. Fight with Dead Ale? Naruto asked himself if he had any problems, but the little flying squirrel's body could barely accommodate his spirit body. His strength was less than 100%. Unless he used the spiritual network to call chakra. How old are you? Naruto suddenly asked. Dead Ale was stunned and subconsciously replied, 16. Naruto the little flying squirrel put his hands on his waist, raised his neck, and said in disdain, I'm only 1 year old this year. Aren't you embarrassed? 1 year old was the little flying squirrel's biological age. Naruto's words were not wrong at all. But in terms of soul, 12 plus 25 in his previous life. Tesuke. 2 rounds for adults. Dead Ale was speechless. Sasori on the side looked at the scene in front of him with interest. Although this mission was to pay off the debt, in fact, it was no different from the usual group activities. Sasori and Dead Ale were in a group, so they naturally traveled together. Dead Ale suddenly sped up in a fit of pique. Naruto's short legs moved quickly, tiring himself out. Dead Ale's speed was still climbing. Naruto looked at Scorpion for help. Yesterday, Naruto and Scorpion had already greeted each other. Naruto admired the young man who had turned him into a puppet. "Senior Scorpion, can you let me hitch a ride with you?" Scorpion lowered his head and looked at the little flying squirrel. The little flying squirrel blinked cutely. Its big eyes were adorable, and it even flapped its big ears. Scorpion suddenly had an impulse to turn this little thing in front of him into a puppet. As Scorpion pondered, his long scorpion tail extended from behind him and landed at the little flying squirrel's feet. "Come on up." Naruto happily climbed along the scorpion's tail to its back. Sitting on Scorpion's body was like sitting on a giant turtle. "When you die, give me your body. I will turn it into an eternal work of art." Scorpion's words made Naruto shudder. Dead Ale shouted, "That's not art at all. Only explosions are art." As he spoke, he grabbed the little squirrel and placed it on his shoulder. "I won't let you turn it into a puppet, Suddenly, Naruto's heart was touched. However, this feeling didn't last for more than 3 seconds. Dead Ale shouted, "I will bury a bomb in your body. When you are about to die, you will detonate yourself. At that moment, you will turn into the most beautiful art in the world." The little flying squirrel's face darkened. "Go F** King bury a bomb. Go F** King detonate yourself. Go F** King art." One wanted to turn a person into a puppet, and the other wanted to detonate a person. Was there no normal person in this team other than him? However, as he walked, Naruto also became bored. He couldn't help but ask, "Human pet, how did you make that clay bomb?" Dead Ale. "You want to know? Then get off me first." Naruto propped himself up on all 4 limbs and glided down from Dead Ale's shoulder in an extremely elegant manner. Dead Ale reached into the satchel at his waist. The sound of swallowing could be heard from the satchel. Dead Ale's hand was eating clay. When Dead Ale opened his hand, a group of white ants rushed toward the little flying squirrel. Naruto was shocked, and the little flying squirrel's ears stood up vigilantly. Was he going to teach him a lesson? Chakra's Earth Attribute Nature Change. Earth Attribute Chakra covered his entire body. There was no need to form seals. The human's body directly merged into the ground and escaped in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already behind Scorpion. Then, he climbed all the way onto Scorpion's body. The white ant self-destruct soldiers missed and then pounced on Scorpion. Scorpion's tail swept through the air, and a nest of hundreds of ants was directly destroyed. However, Dead Ale didn't care about this. In fact, the ant self-destruct soldiers were very weak under his intentional control. It was just to scare people. "You know Earth Attribute Chakra's nature change?" Dead Ale stared at the little flying squirrel. The braid on her head that looked like a little yellow flag swayed in the wind. Naruto said, "Otherwise, if I don't know Earth Attribute Chakra's nature change, why would I ask you about clay bombs?" Dead Ale said excitedly, "Do you want to learn?" The little flying squirrel's red eyes glanced at Dead Ale as if he was looking at an idiot. Nonsense. However, surprisingly, Dead Ale didn't care about the little flying squirrel's attitude this time. Instead, he said with great enthusiasm, "I'll teach you." Then Naruto was grabbed back by Dead Ale, put on his shoulder, and taught. To Naruto's surprise, Dead Ale's self-destruct clay actually turned chakra into explosives and then integrated into the clay. Chakra can be turned into explosives. Naruto thought of Jiraiya's flame bomb. The flame bomb turned chakra into oil and then ignited. Dead Ale taught seriously, and Naruto learned seriously. Time passed by quickly. Soon it was evening. Sasori caught a beast, and Dead Ale started to barbecue it. Naruto, on the other hand, was studying how to convert chakra into explosives. For this reason, Dead Ale also made some finished products for Naruto to imitate. In Dead Ale's words, turning chakra into soil is not much different from turning it into explosives, as long as the composition of the substance is changed. However, there is often a bottomless gap between theory and practice. How did you complete the clay bomb in the first place? Naruto failed many times and couldn't help but ask. Dead Ale turned over the oily beast leg that was already roasted on the fire rack. There was a look of reminiscence on his face. It was a forbidden technique stolen in the village. Because I needed to stuff clay into my mouth, I thought it was troublesome, so I transformed 2 mouths in my palm. Naruto's hand that was about to pick up the clay and stuff it into his mouth paused. Will he transplant 2 mouths on his hand in the future? Absolutely not. However, Naruto was still interested in learning this technique. Chakra wrapped its mouth and then stuffed the clay into its mouth. Spitting it out again. The clay still looked like clay. It didn't feel soft and controllable as Dead Ale said. Dead Ale suggested, "Why don't I transplant the mouth on my hand to you? Then you should be able to learn it." Transplant a mouth? I don't want it even if I die. Naruto threw away the clay in his hand and ran away. But unfortunately, the clay was thrown into the fire, and there was a loud explosion. The strong impact pushed in all directions, and Dead Ale, who was in the center of the explosion, was sent flying more than 10 meters away. Fuck. Is this a success? Chapter 358. Did I succeed? Wishful thinking. When the explosion subsided, Naruto looked at his hand and found that the finished product that Deidara had given him mixed with something similar to an explosive had been thrown out together with it. In other words, it was the piece of clay that Deidara had given him that exploded. What a painful realization. Did you succeed? Deidara, who had been sent flying by the shock wave of the explosion, ran back. Deidara's perception of explosions was not weak. The moment the explosion occurred, he used chakra to protect himself. Therefore, although he looked a little embarrassed and was sent flying far away, in fact, he did not suffer much injury. The little flying squirrel's big ears drooped down and he helplessly said, "No. It should be the finished product you gave me that exploded." Deidara sighed in relief in his heart. Back then, it took him half a year to learn this forbidden technique. If it weren't for his dedication to art, he would have given up on the failure he experienced during this period. If someone learned it in a day, he would hang himself out of shame. Deidara stuffed his hand into the bag containing the clay. Guji guji. The mouth in the palm of his hand devoured the clay. When Deidara opened his hand again, a cute little flying squirrel appeared in Deidara's hand. It looked exactly like the little flying squirrel that Naruto controlled. Here, don't give up. The beauty of art lies in the moment of completion. For this moment, it's worth preparing for a long time. Naruto blankly took the clay flying squirrel that Deidara handed over. The little flying squirrel was very cute and lively. It could even move and intimately rubbed against Naruto's claws. Scorpion looked over and agreed for the first time. "You finally said something correct." Deidara proudly said, "What I said is correct." How could anyone in the world be correct? Unless it was God. After all, God said that there was light in the world, so there was light. Naruto was too lazy to ridicule Deidara's nonsense. The explosion blew up the barbecue, and Dead Ale began to prepare the ingredients again. Naruto came to Scorpion's side. There was one thing he had been curious about for a long time. Scorpion had transformed himself into a puppet with only the core of his body. There was no digestive system, so, did he not need to eat? After roasting a beast leg, Dead Ale handed it to Naruto. Naruto took the beast leg that was several times bigger than him and probed Scorpion. "Senior Scorpion, this is for you." Scorpion looked at Naruto. At this time, Deidara answered first, "He doesn't eat. It's a waste to give it to him." Scorpion really doesn't eat? Naruto pretended not to understand and retorted, "As long as it's alive, it has to eat. Plants also need to photosynthesize." Scorpion wore a triangular scarf on his face, which covered most of his face, leaving only a pair of eyes exposed. It seemed to be full of mystery. "I've already eaten." "Have you eaten?" That was a perfunctory reply. He had never been separated from Scorpion since hunting, so he knew if Scorpion had eaten or not. The little flying squirrel's face twisted together. It looked like he was lying to him. Scorpion hesitated for a moment, then explained, "When hunting, the chakra on their bodies was devoured by me. To me, that means I've eaten." Directly devouring chakra? That worked. Since Scorpion didn't eat, Naruto took a bite of the huge roasted meat. Then, the little flying squirrel's body began to expand like a balloon. It expanded from the size of a fist to the size of a basketball in the blink of an eye, and then took another bite. It continued to expand. When it finished eating the beast leg, the little flying squirrel had already expanded to a meter tall. Deadale called out, "Eh? You've become bigger. Then come and help." After tea. Late at night, Naruto opened up a space underground to rest. At first, it was Naruto leaning on the 3-meter-tall flying squirrel. After falling asleep, the flying squirrel's body continued to shrink, and then it was Naruto who burrowed into Deadale's hair. The picture was unusually harmonious. The next day, 2 people and a squirrel were on the road again. Naruto pulled the clay in his hand, and the little flying squirrel's tail wandered around in circles. "Sasori-senpai, who else is in our organization?" Naruto pretended to ask casually. But it was Deadale who answered first. "Those people don't know, after all, our team is the strongest, Strongest? If I remember correctly, you should have joined the Akatsuki after being taught a lesson by Uchiha Itachi. Not to mention, there is Pain, who has Rinnegan and Nagato behind the scenes, and Obito." Sasori didn't know if it was intentional or not, but he said, "In addition to Pain and Konan, there is also Uchiha Itachi who has Sharingan." Creak. The stick in Deadale's hand was clenched into 2 sections. "This guy is angry." Naruto felt interesting and asked deliberately, "Uchiha Itachi? Sharingan? What is that?" Sasori began to explain. Naruto should know more about Itachi than these 2 people and even all the members of the Akatsuki combined. The information given by Sasori was nothing special, just about the Sharingan. Akekei Genkai has the strongest genjutsu. Deadale interrupted, "That guy is just a fraud, his genjutsu can't do anything to me at all." Ignoring the proud Deadale, Naruto changed the subject and said, "Who else?" The 3 people walked in the wilderness, and Sasori and Deadale added a few words to each other from time to time. When talking about Kakuzu, Naruto casually asked, "That guy has 5 chakra nature changes. So strong." Deadale disdainfully said, "What's so strong? That guy is a miser, he doesn't understand art at all." Sasori surprisingly agreed with Deadale again, "That lecherous guy really doesn't understand art." The clay flying squirrel in Naruto's hand was pulled by the tail and turned in circles. Lecherous. Soon from the words of the 2, Naruto learned that when there is no task, Kakuzu often goes to the red light district in the Western District. The red light district in the Western District? After a big circle, Naruto finally got the information he wanted to know. Naruto's spiritual body pressed on the spiritual link with Fugu, and his spiritual body returned to Fugu's body. Then Naruto went to the red light district in the Western District to apply for a reception job. Perhaps because of the daytime, the shop that Deadale said that Kakuzu frequented was relatively deserted. "Little brother, is this your first time here?" A slightly plump woman greeted him, and Naruto felt a fragrant wind blowing on his face. Naruto's nose is very sensitive, not to fragrance, but to herbs. Just by smelling it, he can tell that it is probably a perfume with added ingredients. Most people probably don't want to leave after entering the door. "I'm here to apply for a job." Naruto's words made the woman's smile freeze for a moment. Soon after, the smile on his face disappeared and was replaced by a look of indifference and indifference. She even yawned without avoiding arousing suspicion, and only said 2 words, "Take it off." Naruto was stunned. "Take what off?" The woman rolled her eyes. "Aren't you here to apply for a job?" You have to be good at it. Do you think anyone can do this job? Naruto almost choked to death by this sentence, and explained, I'm not here to apply for that job, I'm here to compete with the security guard. The woman rolled her eyes again. You still have to take it off. The security guard is a security guard when something happens. When nothing happens, you have to step out. Chapter 359. Strip. Strip your head. Naruto turned around and left. As the saying goes, there are things a man should do and things he shouldn't do. Selling his body. What if he were to fall sick? Naruto hesitated for a moment. He wasn't using his body right now. Should he turn around? But since he had already left, how embarrassing would it be for him to turn around? After Naruto left, the woman rolled her eyes and mocked. You want to earn money, yet you refuse to strip? Are you dreaming? At this moment, a lady walked out of the house and asked, Sister Yao, why did the customer leave? The woman addressed as Sister Yao replied with a sharp tone, What customer? A person came to apply for a job as a bodyguard, but he refused to strip. So, I sent him away. The lady was perplexed. You don't need to strip even if you want to fight a bodyguard? Sister Yao smiled slyly. Hee, I just wanted to tease that lad a little. Wouldn't it be nice if I could take a look at him? The lady covered her mouth and giggled. But there's indeed no need for a bodyguard. Right, the sewers are clogged. Does he know how to clear the sewers? Sister Yao rolled her eyes. How would I know? The lady pointed at the door. He shouldn't have gone too far. Go and ask him. The lady's status was clearly much higher than Sister Yao's. Even though they were chatting casually earlier, Sister Yao immediately carried out the orders given by the lady. The door opened. Naruto hadn't gone too far. He hadn't left at all. He was standing at the entrance, wondering how he should proceed with the mission. Sister Yao shouted, Hey, do you know how to clear the sewers? Naruto was stunned. His thoughts suddenly broke through the horizon. Which sewers? Sister Yao was taken aback. She rolled her eyes and said, Are you dumb? Other than the sewers of the toilets, which other sewers are often clogged? Don't just stand there. Come in and tell me. If you can do this job, you'll be hired. Following which, Naruto was brought to the toilets. To a ninja, clearing the sewers. Naruto took a deep breath. Leave it to me. Chakra's water attribute transformation. A ninja clearing the sewers. How simple. And so, Naruto took up his post with glory. Since the nature of your work is rather unique, you'll be considered a part-time worker. You'll be paid daily. 500 taels a day. What do you think? Do you know who you are applying for? Naruto's heart was also very complicated at this time. He was the apprentice of one of the wood-leaf Sannin, Tsunade. He is also Jiraiya's disciple. His father was the fourth-generation Naruto, the legendary child of prophecy, the uncrowned king of the Snow Country. He was a man who was very likely to become a god in the future. Such a big shot, and you actually applied to clear the sewers? My sister is awesome. Hey, do you do it or not? Squeak. If you don't want to do it, just leave. There are plenty of people who would like to do it. How could he say no? In order to get close to Kakuzu, I'll do it. I'll do it. Thus, Naruto began his career as the #1 man in the red light district. In broad daylight, the shop was very quiet. Naruto just happened to have some free time. He used his mental link to control the mouse. He chatted with Scorpion and Dead Ale for a while. Most of the time, he was filled with learning clay bombs. In the afternoon, at 5 o'clock, the girls started to go to work. For a moment, the shop was very lively. There were also people who took the initiative to talk to Naruto. There were also quite a few who took the initiative to seduce him. However, they were all rejected by Naruto because he couldn't afford it. Fugu, come here. Second floor. With a shout, Naruto resisted the urge to kill and went upstairs with a smile. Sister Yao pointed at the toilet. Hurry up and deal with it. That girl Ying took care of the customer in the toilet and then accidentally flushed Fat C into the toilet. Mother Cur. Only an idiot would do such a thing. The toilet door closed and Naruto used a water spout. Complete victory. When he came out again, Naruto was dumbfounded. Sister Yao was talking to a customer about the problem with the toilet. This was nothing, but that customer was someone familiar. Seahorse. Fugu. The seahorse yelled. Naruto immediately turned around and closed the toilet door. He replied coldly, "You've got the wrong person." However, this kind of method couldn't fool him. Outside, Big Sis Yao and Seahorse were chatting with each other. It was all about Fugu. Everything about him being a virgin was thrown out. Sister Yao talked about how Naruto was unwilling to take off his pants during the interview. The soundproofing of the toilet wasn't very good. Naruto could hear everything clearly from inside. In the end, in order to not expose more embarrassing things, Naruto braced himself and came out. In any case, he wasn't using his face right now, so it wasn't his fault that he was embarrassed. However, to his surprise, Seahorse actually praised him. It was as if he was a celestial being. "I say, bro, you've finally opened your mind. Moreover, you've opened up a huge hole in your brain. But you're not a good friend. When you were young, you would always drag me down to take the blame for you. Now that there's something good, you don't even call me." At first, Naruto thought that he was mocking him. However, he didn't expect that. The next day, Seahorse also came to work. They had the same job and went to the toilet together. However, Sister Yao said that she didn't need so many people. If she wanted to take in 2 people, it would also be a salary. Seahorse was really hard-working. He didn't want to be paid and said that he wanted to give all of them to Naruto. There were so many ridiculous things every year, especially after coming to the Rain Country. However, to Naruto's disappointment, Kakuzu didn't come. Deidara's mission was progressing well. He had already found the earth spiders. It seemed that he wasn't far from finding the whereabouts of the Rokubi. During the day, nothing happened in the shop as usual. Naruto was about to find a place to take a nap. At this time, the image transmitted to Naruto through his mental connection with the flying squirrel made him jump. The flying squirrel was eating people. It was a group of Umbu ninjas from the Mist Village. They were killed by Deidara and Sasori because they bumped into them. Naruto also knew about this process. However, he didn't expect the flying squirrel to pounce on them and eat them raw. Blood sprayed and dyed its fur red, reflecting the scarlet red eyes. Beside him, Sasori and Deidara calmly looked at the scene in front of them. It seemed that they were already used to it. "Stop." The flying squirrel ate the ninja's flesh and blood, and the vitality contained in it was absorbed by the flying squirrel. Its body began to rapidly expand, and in the blink of an eye, it jumped to a height of 4 meters. With another raise of its hand, a person was swallowed alive. Its body grew again. 5 meters, 6 meters, 8 meters. It was too late to stop it now. Moreover, if it suddenly stopped, it might arouse the suspicion of Deidara and Sasori. It's fine to eat, it's very nutritious. Naruto comforted himself. Then, the last 2 Umbu ninjas were quickly killed by the flying squirrel. The flying squirrel's body suddenly jumped to 10 meters. However, this time, it recovered quickly. When the food in its stomach was digested, the flying squirrel's chakra began to converge and stabilize. It only took half an hour to shrink from 10 meters to 5 meters. After another half an hour, it shrank to a point the size of a fist again. Deidara opened the water bag and said, Come and wash. Is it delicious? If it's delicious, I'll kill a few more for you next time. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.